Reveille, reveille.
Look at us now, tip to...
Ooh, Jesus.
Shout out to Morning Kombat.
Do you want a margarita? Yes! My God!
It's us doing what we love. But it's time to bang. Oh, yeah, Monday. Can't trust that day. Or a fart. Hey, it's Morning Kombat coming to you live and direct from New York City, Monday, December 16th, 2024. They used to give us awards for this show. My name is Brian Campbell, that BBC with that BDE, the American Alpha, the beige bastard who just absolutely brings it, right? You know, the other white guy who works too much. And then my partner is, are you okay, Luke Thomas of Washington,
I'm okay.
DC?
I'm okay.
You look serious about the fight game right now.
Tired.
Yeah.
That 4 a.m. alarm, it went early.
It went early.
It went early.
I had to drive through snow and ice to get to that
How
train
bad was it?
station.
Because here's the thing. I got to the city, and it's like drizzly and cold, but it's not cold enough for snow, and there is no snow.
Yeah.
How is it that the climate in Connecticut is so distinct, yet it's not that far from the city?
You know, especially in Hartford, it can be very bitter. Right?
Well, I mean, Hartford is the land that time forgot.
Yes, it is. But we made it, and that's all that matters. Happy holidays to you all out there. I hope you are fired up for combat sports as we are. And we do have a fantastic show for you today. Looking back on the final UFC event of the calendar year of 2024, Tampa, Fight Night, Buckley, Covington, and so much more. We will also set the stage for what can only be said is a monstrous, historic heavyweight title rematch on Saturday in Abu Dhabi as Oleksandr Usyk and Tyson Fury get together for the second time. Luke Thomas, pulse check on Fury Usyk 2. Or maybe I should say Bonaire check.
Yeah, Bonaire check. Rock solid.
Okay, well, come on. Give me that Connor frozen rope on line one,
You're
please.
desperate for like an unbelievably throbbing hard-ons. I'm not.
I mean, not literally.
I don't know. It's getting pretty close. I'm obviously very excited about it. I rewatched the fight on the way here.
Yes.
Just to like refresh my memory. By the way, Turkey Al-Sheikh has his own YouTube channel, and he puts all the fights that I guess he commissions on his channel. Now, you don't get some of the graphics.
Okay.
So, for example, it was the DAZN broadcast. You hear, who's our friend?
Todd Grisham.
Todd Grisham. You hear him. I think Tony Bellew was on that call.
Yeah.
Chris Mannix was doing his scorecards. You never see them. You hear him talk about them. You never see them. But it's a small price to pay for what is otherwise a fantastic fight. And you know what's kind of funny is I had never listened to that fight with headphones on. I had my headphones on. Hearing the sound of the punches, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. It obviously adds a depth and dimension to the fight. Right. But I had never heard it so crisply for that particular fight. Dude.
That was a hellacious fight at times.
Usyk was lighting him up.
He was?
He was lighting him up.
Like you walking by the first class aisle in an airplane, right? Just
absolutely destroying that commode.
Yeah, or those dungarees, or maybe that train commode. I mean, did you hit the train commode again today this morning?
I sure did. I absolutely did.
Crapping on a moving train.
Work.
I mean, Macy Barber, cover your ears. Crapping on a morning train, Luke, is just not good for the human soul.
I went to absolute. I mean, I brought my lunch pail when it came to go take a dump in that thing.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
That's the reality of our show right now
Clocked
as we
in.
close out 2024.
What's her face? Macy. I had people write me being like, could there have been a worse intro? And I'm like, yes. Yes, there could have been. But I admit it was bad.
It was really bad. Thank you very much. We also want to say hello to our third member of the team. You may know him as one half of the Main Card Minute podcast. And you may know him if you're from Long Island. They call him Aussie Rules, Luke Nocita. Luke, you there?
I'm here, boys. How we doing?
Good. Did you have a good time on your podcast over the weekend?
I did. We went 4 for 5. Only bet we missed was Adrian Yanez. I think if he had a little better fight IQ, he could have won that third round.
Wow, friend of the program, Adrian Yanez.
Shout out Yanez. Good dude.
Yeah.
Tough fight. Tougher than I thought it would be for him.
Okay. How many bong rips did you hit during that?
We usually do 1 per fight plus an inaugural one, so that'd put us at 7.
Dude, are you shitting me?
Remember that the other day on my live chat? I'm like, Long Island Luke's not really a degenerate. We just play that up for TV. No, turns out he is. Turns out he absolutely.
What are you getting your girlfriend for Christmas?
I'm not going to say that on air because sometimes she watches the show.
Oh,
you
she
know?
does.
Shout out.
You
Shout
got
out.
one of those girlfriends. That's unusual.
In what way? She supports his work, or she likes
yeah,
combat
exactly.
sports?
I'm not used to that.
Yeah.
Now my wife watches on occasion, but not really.
All right.
Got shit to do.
If you can show us, Long Island Luke, the social handles people can like, they can subscribe. Luke, we've been stuck at, 175,000 YouTube subscribers for seemingly 3 years now. What gives? What's happening right now?
we gotta give them more dynamic content.
I guess that's what it is. But if you've been freeloading on us, if you've been come on and take a free ride, why don't you hit that like and subscribe right now? Help us out. Follow our YouTube channels as well on there, as there is good spinoff related content to what we got going on here on Team M to the damn K. Merch updates to come. We're frozen at the moment, but I'm sure Saul has enough. He showed me Saul from Louisville?
Yes.
He showed me a picture of him at his company Christmas party. He was wearing MK gear.
I mean,
He said 99% of days he wears MK gear.
I got identified at the mall by an MK donk over the weekend.
What was this person's name?
I don't remember.
ASL on that person.
ASL?
Yeah. Age, sex, location. Didn't you used to aim some chicks back in the day? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, come on.
I would talk to chicks in person. I didn't do the
Oh, boy.
ASL.
Oh, boy.
A very nice guy, and he found me. So Tukey went to go see Santa, which was a
Yes.
big success.
She was not afraid of this man.
Not at all.
Okay.
And then they wanted to go shopping, and I was like, I don't want to go shopping. I want to go home. And instead, I made a compromise. I went to those guys. I believe they're Chinese. They do the mall massages.
Yes.
But this is the one it's not in their actual location. It's on the floor of the mall. Bro, that guy unlocked something in my shoulder.
So you sat in the middle of the mall
Mhm.
aisleway on Christmas shopping season. You sat there like a donk
That
getting
is
massaged.
exactly what I did.
That's almost as lame as lifting weights in your own front yard.
It is true. However, it felt fucking great.
Did you let out like orgasmic groans where people were questioning what was really
Dude,
happening?
my man was giving me UFC 116 Shane Carwin round 1 ground. and
Wow.
pound. I mean, he was fucking me up. I had to tap a couple times. It,
Okay.
it was so painful. But it was great. I really enjoyed it.
All right.
I really enjoyed it.
No.
Did I have sex with him? No, I did
No,
not.
I didn't go that far. Wow. All right. There you go. So I guess we set the stage for this fantastic episode. What do you got? You got any special holiday plans this year, Luke? Or is it going to be a quiet Christmas at the Thomas household?
Well, after the year that we've had, I mostly would just like to eat a bullet most days.
I don't appreciate or agree with that.
But no plans. We're trying to figure out vacation plans for next year, but that's about it. Nothing.
Let me guess. You're
Anything
going to
good?
take it the same week that I am. Yes.
I can only. I have the same
I
problem.
got
I
you.
have the same problem you do, which is I go when Tukey's
Low
got
T.
what?
Low T?
Low T. A crippling depression.
Yes.
But more than that, I can only go on vacation when Tukey has spring break. I can
Yes,
only go when the
yes.
school year's over. So I'm at the mercy of all that shit.
Do
know?
you teach Tukey to believe that Santa is of Latin origin?
No. However, we have the issue, as I've explained before. She lost a couple teeth in Colombia, and when we lose teeth there, it's what we use their parable or whatever. Raton Perez is their guy who
Raton Perez.
Raton Perez is Raton
Is
Perez.
Perez the surname? And
Yes, the last name. So he collects teeth of children to build his houses. That's what he does, and he gives you some money for it. But if she loses teeth here, and by the way, she's about to lose another one, it's the tooth fairy. You know what I'm saying?
okay.
Yeah. We don't do Papa Noel. We don't do it. But obviously, all of South America is all Catholic countries. They do a whole extra thing for baby Jesus related to, like, you'd be surprised by this. We have several nativity sets in my house.
How do you allow that, given your dark soul?
I think you understand. Happy wife, happy life, my friend.
Yeah, happy Tukes, happy everything.
Like, what do I
right?
give a shit? You know what I mean? If it makes them happy, let them do it, you know?
Wow. Maybe, just maybe, the baby Jesus in your house is changing you. Just maybe. All right. I hope. I pray for it.
Could be true, but anyway. So I respect my wife's traditions. I don't necessarily partake in all of them, but I let her have what makes her happy and everything. Plus, Abuela's back, and they're good to me. So.
Oh, that means what's her specialty, Abuela? What's her go-to when you're like, oh, Abuela's here? Get in that kitchen and make me happy. And I don't mean to necessarily say that's the way you talk to her.
No, I understand, but they do cook a lot. I've told you about it before. Ajiaco.
Tuna.
No. Ajiaco is remember, Colombia has different heights. And
Yes.
So my wife is from the mountains, and they are big soup and stew drinkers because of it's colder up there. And that's like that is like and like there's other ones, but that's maybe the most traditional Colombian soup that they make, and that she rocks that shit. She actually made it this week.
Is there meat in there?
Oh yeah, dude. Let me explain to you what Colombians eat.
Yeah.
Rice, potatoes, and meat. That is, and cheese. That is what they put cheese in their fucking hot chocolate. That's a real thing that they do. That's a real thing that they do. Yes.
All right.
Which I think is gross, but they love it. So.
It's something. All right, that wraps up the shoot the shit part of our show. It's time to get into our opening topic, and you know what that is: UFC Tampa, and a must-see welterweight main event involving ranked fighters as Colby Covington returned for the first time in a year, just the second time, seemingly in the last decade or so, against hard-hitting Joaquin Buckley. And what we saw in the end was Buckley taking yet another step toward greatness here. Luke Thomas entering the bout as the number 9 ranked welterweight. Buckley became just the second fighter joining Kamaru Usman to stop Colby Covington via strikes. This was due to a cut in this fight. And now riding a 6-fight win streak after cutting down to 170 pounds. Luke, my opening question is this. With victories now at welterweight over Luque, Wonderboy, Colby, is it time to take Newmansa seriously as a title contender?
I think it is.
Was it already? Or was this the turning point for you?
This is, first of all, he had a fantastic calendar year, not just in 2024.
Yeah, why are we not mentioning him in the Fighter of the Year discussions? 4 fights, 3 finishes?
4 fights, 3 finishes, which is remarkable. Very busy, leveled up huge from where the year started to where the year ended. But I do think he's a legitimate title contender. I think that I felt like he was going to have certainly more firepower than Colby Covington heading into the contest, and of course that was true. And I thought he was going to have enough defense to get the job done, and that was certainly true. But I thought there might be some places where Colby is just going to know how to win and know what is going to be valuable at that moment in the round, like in a gut check time. And there was some evidence of that, by the way. Like there was times where Buckley electing to wrestle with him when he didn't need to, I thought was inadvisable. Didn't cost him in the end, but inadvisable. Nevertheless, Colby has a certain role to play in this division, although that's now rapidly diminishing. I'm sure we'll talk about that in a minute. But he was still very valuable as a test in this particular fight. If you look at Buckley, he is obviously physical for the weight class. He is now very experienced. They were saying he had nearly caught up. Colby had been in the UFC 10 years. He still had more fights, I think just a couple more than Buckley.
I think one more. Buckley had 15 and Colby had 14 during that.
I mean, just an insane level of activity that, as we indicated.
Sorry, Buckley had 15 in like the last 5 years.
Yes.
Colby has 14 overall.
10.
Right?
No, I think was it 14 or was it 17, Long Island, Luke? Can you double check that?
Something like that.
I'll look.
Yeah, thanks. Either way, you get the idea. So now he's experienced. He's physical for the weight class. He's obviously a very good striker. Those digs to the body were fantastic from his lead right hand, which I loved. Takedown defense was on point. Scrambling.
Down blocking, just putting the pressure right on Colby's
Amazing.
shoulder.
Colby had 16 going in, and Buckley had 14 going in.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, at half the time. It's ridiculous, right? And then on top of it, now just being in a main event, understanding the media pressures, dude, he is primed to absolutely. And we had talked about these guys who we thought were going to be at the top, and many of those did pan out. Jack Della Maddalena seems like he's destined for something big. Sean Brady seems like he's destined for something big. Shavkat Rakhmonov, obviously we've been on top of him. We had maybe overlooked Joaquin Buckley a little bit. We had maybe seen like, okay, he's acrobatic, he's got good skills.
Sure.
He'd been beaten kind of convincingly at times, stopped at times, up at 185. But he has matured, developed, and now raised his game, raised his profile, leaned into everything now that he's at welterweight. And BC, maybe you disagree, but I really feel like, do I see overwhelming evidence of a title future? I think that would be a little strong. But do I see somebody who can absolutely contend for a title, be a number 1 contender, beat other elite guys? I absolutely see that. He is for real.
I fully agree. Yeah, and he might have the best rack in all of the UFC, which we've said
Big
before.
ass titties.
But I mean, all meat for sure on that regard. But seriously, the only thing we didn't really learn about him from this fight, which I was hoping for in his arc and his growth, was can he go past 3 rounds? How does he look in the championship rounds? We never actually got here in this case because of the early cut in round 1 on Colby, the constant stiff jabs to keep it to keep that wound flowing, and then you saw that step in and that stoppage, and we can certainly debate the relevancy of that stoppage in a second, but you can't argue with the win streak. You can't argue with the names, in that the 3 biggest names on the 6-fight win streak, he stopped all 3 of them in Luque, Wonderboy, and now Colby Covington. Let's not forget just a few fights ago that Newmansa was on the microphone constantly pushing for an opportunity, a headlining role, a Conor McGregor fight, which we all made fun of him for. But the whole point is he's asking for more. The UFC is giving him opportunities, and he's passing each test. Luke, I do lament to a certain degree that for Buckley's arc, we didn't get this fight against Ian Gary like it was supposed to be, because that really, I think, would have shown us exactly where he's at. In some ways, fighting this version of Colby was maybe a little bit of a step back in terms of what he had the potential to show us. Yet he still went out there, brutalized him, cut him, and stopped him. So what else are we going to say about him? But he's won so much in a row. He's in such a firm spot that should an injury come to somebody and they have to go a little bit down the line, he's in striking distance to get the call for a title shot at this point. That's not crazy to say. Even though he was, ranked 9th coming in?
Yeah, you mean like on short notice?
On short notice.
Yes.
Like he's moving closer. Maybe he doesn't have that one victory on the level of what a Gary fight could have given him, but to have 6 in a row, to stop the 3 biggest names there, I'm super impressed. And Newmansa in the post-fight press conference gave a little mic drop to what he believes his future should be. Let's listen to him.
That was a fantastic performance and a great win.
Appreciate it.
Did you kind of see that going that way before you got
Yeah. My first main event was a big success. I feel like the whole card, was very successful, getting a lot of knockouts. I feel like, my fight, shouldn't been stopped, but, it is what it is. You got to protect the fighters. But I feel like 2025, man, is definitely my year, and we definitely taking over, With this being said, this is on a 6-fight winning streak. I got, 8 knockouts, within the UFC. I feel like I done enough to really kind of put myself in a position to kind of, yet again, fight for that title. And even though I know that Shawkat is next, blessed to that fight. But if anything happens where Shawkat or Bilal doesn't, step up into the octagon, I'm willing to, face them. So at the end of the day, man, we're going to keep this nice and short, bro. I'm definitely looking to take that throne, man, 2025, bro. So we out, baby. Thank you.
Hey, one and done. That's why I like it. Right to the point. I mean, look, a year ago, if I had asked you, or if I told you that Buckley would be in this spot and went through the names he did, I don't know if you'd necessarily fully believe. I forgot that he had fought 4 times this year. When you think about it, it's like the fight of the year discussion has Topuria and Poatan on top, and we're all going to debate that on every publication and podcast for the next few weeks. But that second tier are still the championship level of guys that are in that discussion: Dricus du Plessis, Merab, Pantoja. But when you go below that, when you go to the non-title guys, and I think maybe you should throw somebody like Dakota Ditcheva into this conversation, even though she's a PFL champion, you're talking about guys like Carlos Prates, but you should be talking about Newmansa as well for everything he's accomplished. 4 fights, 3 finishes. I mean, everything he said in that was true. He's a phone call away now from getting that. I didn't think he would get here. Credit to him, his growth. And if you notice on the broadcast, they mentioned that this is the first time he's got a camp catering just to him. It seems time for that. And that matters when you get to this level, it seems like.
I will say there is one thing missing from his resume, at least at welterweight of late. So if you look at the wins he has going back even to 2023, Andre Fialho, not in the UFC anymore, Alex Moreno, good fighter, but sort of like a prelim card guy. Vicente Luque had a nice win recently, but I would say a lot of miles.
Sure.
Nursultan Ruzaboyev, a good fighter, but not again, more of a prelim kind of UFC fight night guy. Wonderboy, great, but kind of old. And then Colby certainly held some status in this division, but I would argue also kind of old. The one thing lacking, not that he is, by the way, dodging the smoke. I think he is more than ready for it and asking for it. But the one thing that's missing is somebody else like him.
Agreed.
A new generation guy
Gary.
at welterweight, a Gary. A Brady.
Yeah.
A De La Maddalena. A Shavkat. The fact that he's now in that orbit, to me, just tells you how much he has raised his profile, as we just indicated. But he doesn't have a win over a guy like that yet. He's beaten all the other guys that he can, young guys who are not that great or older, aging veterans. The next level is where we're going to really get some sorting going on. But as we indicated, performed more than ably, looks awesome, has earned it.
Likeable.
Good for likeable.
Showed up at our 3 margarita show after it ended.
And thinking about how he started the year with that weird Conor McGregor call out that had the fans being like, "What are you doing?" And now, what is he doing? Less is more. Say less, right? And look at the result. We're all like, dude, this fucking guy is great. He started off the year, yes, winning, obviously, but trying to appeal to the fan base, kind of a ham-fisted way that didn't work. And now he learned from it. He watched. He observed. He changed. And now we couldn't be higher on him. This
Yeah.
is as high as we've ever been on him, and he earned every part of it.
We've been this high, just not on him.
Yeah, I mean, I've
You
been
know?
high as fuck. If you
Yeah.
ask me like my discontinued food
Yes,
list.
yes.
I was high as balls.
Or Chewbacca's history, or maybe Anakin being a bitch. We're going to get to who we called out and who could be next. But let's talk about that cut that happened to Colby Covington in round 1, right on the hairline of his right eye, which means it was directly into his eye, compromising his vision. And then I think Colby at times was sort of pawing at it, maybe
At
for the
times, like constantly.
and it was opening it back up. I have the video, but I don't think we can show it. I don't want to get shut down of Colby walking out with Hulk Hogan and Chael Sonnen.
Yeah.
What the hell's happening here? But Luke, Dana would say afterwards, here's what's interesting. They asked Dana about how good Buckley did, and he barely said anything about Buckley and only big upped Colby's heart, determination, toughness. These are things that are true. I would have liked to hear a little bit more about all the great stuff Buckley did, but one thing Dana said was, if this fight was in Vegas, that fight does not get stopped. They would let that cut go. I want to get your opinion. If Dana's right, or B, does it even matter? Was that fight heading a certain direction anyway?
So he is definitely right. He is right that if that fight had taken place in Nevada, it is almost certainly you're going to have much more experienced ringside physicians who have kind of seen a wide array of cuts through a lot of experience and kind of know what to go and what to let continue and what not. Also, you're just dealing with a commission there that works at the service of UFC. They don't regulate UFC. UFC regulates them. We should just say that out loud.
In which state? Every state they go to, or not?
Well, especially Nevada.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest.
I mean, who has good states anymore? California and New York, maybe?
Well, I don't think Nevada is necessarily the worst commission in the world. There are certain things they do better than others, if by no other reason than because of the volume of fights that take place in the state. But I just want to make a point here. Like, we recently have seen Nevada continue to employ on both the boxing and MMA side Adelaide Bird, who is easily, during my time covering fights, if not the worst, certainly one of the worst judges, by the way, in boxing and MMA. It's not like they're good at one or the other. They're bad at both. And they continue to do that. This is the same commission that tried to destroy Nick Diaz's career. You will have to forgive me if I do not look at the Nevada Commission as a marker of excellence. If the ringside physician felt like that was a bad enough cut, and by the way, it was in a very bad place. It wasn't on the eyebrow line or above it. It was on the actual eyelid.
Dude, when he finally took Buckley down that one time,
Mhm.
did you see the
smearing,
pile of blood on Buckley's knee from Colby's face? Just
so bad. It was so bad. And so for that reason, I trust that ringside physician's overall judgment. This is something akin to what we got in New York when we had the first BMF fight between Nate and Jorge. You had a ringside physician who probably was not as experienced as ones in Nevada or California, and so they called it a little bit early. But to the point you raised, does it even matter? Dude, Colby was getting demolished. He had lost both the first and second round on all three judges' scorecards. There were some mistakes I thought Buckley was making in the third, but nevertheless, that cut could have gotten really, really bad. Colby is closer to 40 than he is 30. I don't really mind the stoppage.
No. And then, even though Colby had that takedown in round 2, Buckley hurt him in that same round and seemed to have won it from that equation anyway. You mentioned Ken. I want to mention Ken, our sound guy. Ken, normally it's cold as balls in here. Right now I'm sweating like a whore in church. Are you feeling that?
It's a little warmer than normal.
It's
I put this on too, thinking it was going to be cold. But
yeah,
we'll turn up the AC.
Oh, thank you so much, Long Island and Ken. I appreciate you guys. I just think it was where it was, and everything we said about Colby coming in was true. We knew he was going to be tough. We knew he had the potential to slow down the things that Buckley does well. But did he have enough to stop it? Did he have enough to hurt him striking? We didn't see that. We saw a willingness. I guess he was more game than the Leon loss where injury was a thing. But we're still seeing a downward trend of Colby being exciting or effective in there at this level. So, Luke, before we get into the future of Buckley and what could be next at 36, now suffering back-to-back losses for the first time in his pro career, what could or should be next for Covington? I feel like we all just want to knee-jerk say, well, he's proven to us now he's no longer at that elite level, so what is there else to prove he should walk away? But I wonder if that's playing into how annoying he can be at sometimes. Is there still a role for him? Can he be one of those guys, in your opinion, who faces the up-and-comers coming up and becomes that litmus test? Should he want to be that? What is left for Colby?
He's not completely irrelevant. It's a little premature to say he's completely irrelevant, but he is mostly irrelevant.
So just grudge matches with people that he's been in verbal wars with, the Poiriers,
other
the Ortegas.
aging guys you could do. People have said you could do the Wonderboy fight. I also saw some suggestions over the weekend he could do a Gilbert Burns fight. I don't know if he can win either of those at this point. I mean, maybe the
So
Wonderboy
aging
fight.
names is what you're saying. Aging names.
Yeah, that's something he really wants to do. But I think there's a moment where we have to kind of reflect on what has happened with Colby Covington. There was an interesting debate on Twitter over the weekend about what was Colby ever elite? Was he ever elite, Brian? I have a few
Yes.
thoughts I'd like to
Yes,
share.
he was.
What would at his peak? What would make him elite?
Even though he was largely one-dimensional, and even though the biggest wins that propelled him to stardom did come against aging names that were on the other side of the hill, Robbie Lawler would be a big example of that. For example, he was able to weaponize the combination of his stamina, his forward pressure, and his wrestling to a very elite level where he was a problem. He could drown people. And I think I still give him a ton of credit for his performance toe-to-toe on the feet in the first Usman title fight that felt like a pick'em fight going into that final round, and he ultimately had his jaw broken and was stopped. But the limitations of that one-dimensional sort of aura around him, I never thought were going to make him age all that well. So was he elite? I think you have to say for a season he was. He went in there against a champion and gave him all he could handle twice. I mean, that rematch with Usman was also close and competitive. But he wasn't great enough to get over that hill. He wasn't well-rounded enough to be a high-level pound-for-pound guy at his very peak. He was what he was, a title-contending for a season elite fighter who propelled his shtick and persona to probably more fame than his skills allowed. But I don't think we should say anything more than that.
I think that's maybe close to being right. His best win is probably somewhere between the Dong Hyun Kim win
RDA?
and the Robbie Lawler win. I know he won the interim title, obviously defeating RDA, but RDA kind of a blown-up lightweight, very skilled, but a blown-up lightweight. But the Demian Maia fight, he kind of got pieced up on the feet a little bit on that one, overall winning. Zane Simon had a good analysis over the weekend saying if you looked at what Colby represented at the time he was at his peak, he had one of these really intensive labor styles where he could just throw a lot of volume at you, a ton of cardio, a ton of wrestling, a ton of position dominance, a ton of, pitter-patter shots, but volume in that sense. The Robbie Lawler fight is kind of the peak of that. But, I mean, this is a guy who traded friendships, traded relationships, traded business entanglements for an identity that he had banked on using this volume striking, this volume attacking kind of thing. And then I'm just going to burn every bridge and then use the light of these flames to gain attention for myself. But it actually never really worked in the end. He didn't get nearly far enough.
Well, I can argue it worked when you consider, what did he headline? 3 pay-per-views? Like, that's not nothing.
Well, he was gifted title shots. I can certainly agree with that. But I'm saying he doesn't really have a signature win.
Sure.
He didn't ever become champion. He was an interesting foil that people wanted to root against, which has some value. But I think looking back on his career, there is a question about whether he was elite. I think he was for a very brief moment in time.
Isn't it very similar to Chael's resume and legacy
Right,
in a
but
sense?
here's the difference
Where
between...
you're noted for being the trash-talking B-side in competitive title fights, but you never got over the hump.
Right, but let's talk about the differences between Colby and Chael. Chael did many of the things, and of course was walking him out, cornering him, consoling him after the fight, which I thought...
It was a little weird to see that, even though I know that they were close.
Yeah.
I wasn't shocked that they were friendly. It was weird to see him as the head trainer.
The difference is that Chael found a way over time to endear himself to the fan base. Following UFC 245, Colby blamed Mark Goddard being un-American.
Yeah.
He blamed an uneven calling of the fouls in that fight that were just totally made up. Following UFC 268, he accused Kamaru Usman of cheating, of the judges not liking his conservative values. Following the Leon Edwards loss, he blamed a mysterious foot ailment and then high-altitude poisoning, as well as campaigning with Donald Trump. He has made any number of excuses for poor performance when he was actually tested against some of the very best guys in his division. That is the exact opposite of what Chael Sonnen did. Chael Sonnen, no. Chael Sonnen showed up to press conferences, and if he got his ass whooped, would say he got his ass whooped by a better guy. And
he's also undefeated. I just wanted to add that, okay?
Okay, but he almost does that in sort of a comical shtick.
Yes, I guess.
This guy, slams the character of anyone who doesn't work in service to his big, stupid lies. And that is not only off-putting, it kind of shows you what the real subtle difference is between him and a guy who understands audience manipulation in all its various forms. This dude can only light fires. He can only be an arsonist. Chael was an arsonist and a firefighter at the same time, And that is, to me, a pretty significant difference in the end. You just do not have this cornucopia of every. I mean, dude, if you, I can't even get into it. You get the idea. There is a gigantic difference between the two. Not so much how the competitive career itself on the resumes turned out, but how they were received because how they handled it, and then what that bought them down the line.
Well, and there's also a cost of that. The cost is that a lot of us are going, yeah, maybe he should just finish. I'm kind of done with him. But to his credit, if you want to call it that, maybe it doesn't have to become a standard bearer, you know, become a gatekeeper to the next, you know, the next growing fighters or not. We mentioned the idea of fun fights against other old guys, but if he's done one thing positive for himself within this negativity that you're talking about, this cloud of constant purposeful negativity, is he's created enough beefs where I'm wondering if the UFC matchmakers believe that there's not a few more tickets they can cash.
How good is the beef if you don't believe in one guy's ability to do
I mean,
anything
I
with
certainly
it?
agree with you on that. And I think his lack of activity in between these big fights has only
Fucked
hurt
him
him.
up proper.
Not only hurt him in his ability to perform in those, but it doesn't, people think his ranking is only celebrity given because he's not out there beating. I mean, he hasn't beaten a guy in the top 15 since like 2019, or that's somebody that hasn't been in the top 15 that he's beaten for such a long time.
Let me ask you a question, if I may. Did you see some of the post-fight footage from his YouTube channel?
No.
He's talking with Chael backstage, and, you know, he's kind of licking his wounds, which is fine.
He's like, Hulk, how do I tear this shirt? Here, what do? We rip it up the front?
Yeah, you know, learning racial slurs, I'm sure, from Hulk Hogan. But the reality is he was kind of licking his wounds, which is normal. And then he's like, you know, not bad for a 3-week camp. Why did he take this fight, do you think?
I wonder if he had been pushing for a big fight and it had been no. And then there's this opportunity. And if you really think about it, he probably looked at Newmansa as limited. And I think to some degree, even us critics and experts did. We saw him surging, but you still look at the guy and go, okay, in theory, I probably could expose these areas. So in his mind, he probably thought, I'm fighting a ranked guy who to me is beatable. And even on short notice, my only chance of crashing back into the party, because I think he realized that his celebrity alone wasn't going to be enough to get him back in the title picture like it had been, right? The loss to Edwards, he just looked so bad. He's been out of our minds for so long. So I think he thought this is probably the best opportunity to get a huge win to get me that Ian Gary fight that it seems like he's been trying to build toward with the constant comments about Gary. That's what I thought. I think he strategically saw this as his best opportunity to become a player again. And now
I have a different theory.
And now it's really like, what grudges do people care about enough where you can cash in that ticket of the time you put in ripping that guy? You know what I mean? Like, is he going to fight Brian Ortega? They had a thing for a while. You know what I mean? It's like, it's all, that's what he's down to. Either that or nothing, or go away, because I think a lot of us are sick of him, not just in what he spouts out of his mouth, but his fights have certain limitations because of the limitations of his skill set, to be fair.
I have a different theory.
Okay.
May I?
Please.
Do you notice he never really did any trash talk about Buckley? In fact, he left every kind of trash talk opportunity to Chael, who didn't make it about Buckley at all.
I mean, he did call him irrelevant and stuff like that.
Okay, but that's sort of standard garden variety, you know, trash talk, such that the fighters all kind of consider all of their opponents in that way. And then afterwards, he had mentioned, again, you got to watch this footage where he kind of talks about doing the company a favor. I think he took that fight, maybe because he was under pressure to like get something into the calendar in 2024, but more to the point, I actually feel a little bit differently. He might have believed a part of himself, like, you know, if I can get that wrestling going, I might have a chance against this guy. But what I really think he was doing was buying himself good favor with the promotion, knowing that his days to beat top guys, to get those
I do you this
things,
solid, you get me back.
right? Because he knows his days are numbered. He can't beat these guys outright, but what he can do is he can nobly lose to them, do the UFC a favor, and then get another opportunity as a consequence.
And maybe that's why Dana not only avoided playing up the success Buckley had and praising him, it was all about, well, hey, man, Colby fought so hard and he's a warrior and blah, 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 blah. Maybe that's what it was, to be fair. Maybe those type of comments support it.
By the way, people think that's nakedly political, and of course it could be, like they share similar will. Well, yes and no. I mean, you could be the strongest whoever supporter that Dana doesn't like, but if Mick Maynard and Sean Shelby call you and they need you on short notice and you can make weight and you say yes, they're going to look the other way. That is the number one service that you can do to the UFC. Be ready, take a short notice fight, even when it's not in your interest. They love that shit. He did it.
Well, I'm sure it's a good payday, too, to save them on 3 weeks' notice.
All of that. Be
in a main event. It's also in Florida. Like, I think it was a calculated move overall for Colby. he just lost and didn't make me want to see him again. I mean, he did fight nobly, he did fight with heart, but I'm just kind of done with this experience. Let's talk about what's next for Newmansa, though, because Buckley earned himself yet another huge fight. I didn't hate the shtick he had afterwards, Luke, where he said, I'm going to say 3 names. Let's get the crowd's response. Those 3 names were Leon Edwards, Kamaru Usman, and the champ himself, Bilal Muhammad. He and interviewer Michael Bisping, who was extra Bispingy on this broadcast.
Yeah. Did you hear Bisping make fun of Chael for
Yes, I
for
did.
not for he was
Yes.
like he never stops talking. I'm like,
pot and kettle right there. They seem to center upon Kamaru Usman. And because of how little interest I have in Usman lingering in the title picture only because of his name, even though he's lost his last 3, he hasn't fought at welterweight in a handful of years. I do like this fight as sort of elite level gatekeeping from him. That if he can go out there and beat Newmansa, could it push him back into a huge fight? It might, but I'd rather him have to go earn it than just who's going to fight Shavkat. Is it going to be Gary or is it just going to be Usman like we think? I like that it wasn't Usman in that Gary fight, and I would like this fight for both Buckley and Usman. Why wouldn't you, though?
okay.
Because you know he can't get a title shot.
Sean Brady defeats old guy Gilbert Burns. Again, relatively speaking. Obviously, Shavkat and Ian Gary had to fight each other, but Buckley defeats Covington, old guy, and also Wonderboy Thompson.
It's an old division, though.
Right. But we need this process, old to push out new. Jack Della Maddalena has been sort of suggested he's going to be fighting Kamaru.
Yes.
That makes more sense. Young guy versus old guy. We've seen Buckley have to take out the trash.
Okay, so back-to-back old guys is too much. I get it.
He just fought Thompson and Covington back-to-back. I don't need to see another old guy fight.
What's Sean Brady's situation right now?
Waiting on a fight. Has it coming off that Gilbert Burns win, a big one.
Talk me into that fight. Why would the UFC do that?
Buckley versus...
Yeah, but Brady wasn't on Buckley's list, but would the UFC do that? Or who's Leon going to fight? Because, Buckley
Leon
also
needs
threw
to go.
that.
Leon
So
fight.
I need you to book the territory for me at welterweight. When are we going to see Bilal Shavkat? Depends on Shavkat's status, right?
Oh, no. I mean, I don't know if he takes Ramadan off, but I think it was more Bilal's getting back with the foot injury.
Didn't he fight Gilbert during Ramadan? I think he
might.
Yeah.
Not every Muslim fighter takes
Sure.
Ramadan off. I don't know if he does or not. I can ask Danny Rube. But the point I want to make was the Leon fight to me, your UFC London, now that makes a lot of sense. You could say, well, old guy, but he just came off a title loss. He's not quite super, super old guy. Like, what has he got left? Are we sure about him? We now know Buckley is, roughly speaking, basically a top 5-ish guy.
You talked me into it.
Right. That's the fight to
You
make.
talked me into it. He wouldn't get as much necessary necessary critical value that he still lacks because he's gone through old guys by giving him Kamaru. You're
now,
right.
You could say JDM also fought Gilbert, and so does he need to fight a Kamaru? No. You could put those two guys together. You could put JDM and Buckley together. Now you're kind of cannibalizing because Leon's waiting.
Why don't you just put JDM and Sean Brady together?
Sean Brady versus Leon in London, and then you do
Yeah, I like
JDM versus Buckley.
I like Leon.
I could do that.
Leon versus Buckley is you've won me over on that.
Here's the thing. The problem I have with Leon taking on Sean Brady is Leon had to fight Colby and Kamaru 3 times. We've kind of seen him do this kind of wrestler type guy. I'm looking for something a little bit new.
Yeah, and I think that would be exciting to the UFC and the matchmakers to make that because they know Buckley's going to push and go for the knockout even when he's losing. We've seen that before. I like that quality in Buckley, that if he's down and out, he's still firing back and trying to find a chance to win. All right, I'm down with that. Very well done. We nailed it.
We solved all the
Time
world's
to move
problems.
on. Luke, I want to move on to topic number 2, which is the remainder of the UFC Tampa card, which did give us, from Cub Swanson to Manel Kopp and so many more, a lot to talk about. So because of that, Luke, breakthrough knockouts being so aplenty at UFC Tampa with everyone from Cub, Kopp, Dustin Jacoby, Michael Johnson, Joel Alvarez, Sean Woodson, all delivering what seemed like breakthrough KOs to further themselves ahead. Which one of those 6 fighters ultimately was the most impressive on Saturday?
Oh, that's a good question. Most impressive. They were really good KOs up and down. That is true. I'm not going to say Manel Kopp, even though it was really good, because it was a little controversial because was the guy kicked in the balls first?
He was.
There was that.
But the replay showed it was kind of borderline at the same time.
The Cub Swanson KO was absolutely fucking magic. I mean, God bless Billy Quarantillo. He fights the way you would imagine he was going to fight. He was so big, too. I couldn't believe how much bigger he looked.
He did what he said he would do, which is come
he
out
did
and go for it.
exactly what he said he was going to do. And that sometimes you win, sometimes you lose.
Yeah.
But God bless him for fighting that way. Dustin Jacoby fight with Vitor Petrino was terrible until the knockout. Now, the knockout itself was fucking spectacular, but I didn't love it.
It was a great knockout.
Can I just say the one that I wanted to give the biggest shout out to, also Michael Johnson, sending Atman Azatar to the land of wind and ghost was remarkable.
And then giving him those 2 extra, Hendo on Bisping, just some extra.
The nails into the coffin there.
Yes.
I was like, holy shit.
Damn.
Joel Alvarez. Joel Alvarez is the guy that deserves a shout out. He has 2 losses in his UFC campaign. Damir Ismagulov, who's a very good fighter, and then Arman Saryukian. But for that, he's finishing everybody. And I've never seen a guy capture a guillotine choke and then punch with the opposite hand into the guy's grill like this. That was vicious. He is vicious. He should not.
He's fun. He's fun to watch.
By the way, do you now understand why I'm not super high on Jakar Close there, Long Island?
I was going to say, you got to give me credit for saying that fight was going to be a banger, man.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be a banger, but you're like, I don't understand why Jakar Close is on the prelims. Do you understand now?
No, I said I don't understand why that fight as a whole. You could A
I
side,
don't think
B
we need
side.
Luke on Luke crime here, you know?
Yeah, we know Luke on Luke crime. That's true.
Either way, that was sick.
It was sick. It was amazing. Joel Alvarez needs to be on main cards. They need to push this guy up. The UFC is talking about going to Spain.
Yes.
You need a supporting cast.
Yes, you do.
Holy shit, this is the guy.
That is
this
the guy. Put him on the main card. Put him in a big step-up fight because he certainly earned that. I don't want to move past Kopp because to me that was the most impressive. Maybe not the finish itself being more impressive than some of these other KOs we talked about, but to me, this was clearly an audition for a title shot, and Kopp was auditioning between rounds and being all over Dana after the fight cage side. All over Dana to the point that the camera was picking up their conversation, and Dana's like, I'll catch up with you in the back. I promise you I will. Although Dana would end up saying in the press conference afterwards that he does not believe this is enough for Kopp to be next, nor should Kopp next, which tends to make you believe it's going to be Kai Kara France. Kopp to me was virtuoso at times. And it's always going to be a Kopp fight where there's going to be fouls, whether it's him doing it or receiving it, and he received a few as well. But dude, the way he flowed, we don't see that all the time at 125. And it was against a guy on a 4-fight win streak who had been finishing people, like a guy who had some momentum there and fought hard in defeat. But I don't know. I saw a different level of confidence and almost an octopus-like ability from Kopp to be everywhere in that fight where he needed to be, countering, dipping in and out, and still giving you the flavor on top of it, and still afterwards in the interview going, I'm on ESPN, don't worry, I won't say anything bad. But fuck on Adesanya. Like, hell yeah, dude. I mean, he said F Kai Kara France too. He said F everybody.
Yeah, it was like 7 or 8 guys.
But like, I love me what Kopp is all about. In fact, Kopp at the post-fight press conference said if Dana doesn't give him what he wants, he's going to go get it. Let's hear from him.
I'm here a long time in UFC. I'm 31 years old. I'm not going to be 31 forever, so it's my time to get the title shot.
And then last thing for me, you and Dana White were having a conversation through the fence walls, and then Dana said, all right, enjoy your moment. 5 minutes, I'll meet you back and we'll talk. Did a conversation happen?
Me and Dana, we are neighbors. We live 10 minutes away with each other. You know, if he don't get the conversation, you know, I'm going to his home. You know, I'm going to knock his door because we live in Summerlin, in Vegas, so it's easy. I'm cut him.
Home invasion. Threatened.
Okay, it's a little much.
You know, he said some controversial things in the past. He's still tied to that Mokaev fight that sucked. All those things are true. And maybe Kai Kara France with the fan base that he has, it would make sense that would be next for Pantoja. And you have to add in that Pantoja did beat Kopp when they met in the UFC.
That's true.
A bunch of years ago by decision. But with that said, whether Kopp has to get another fight to get to that step or not, you have to take him super serious now from this fight, in my opinion. And I know he had just lost to Mokaev, so it's not like he was on some grand win streak. I'm just seeing the level of confidence. I think he's right what he said in the cage afterwards, Luke. When he said, I'm the real flyweight pay-per-view star. That was aggressive. But what he's trying to say is there's nobody with my flavor, with my attitude, with my rawness, with the ability to play up a fight. Dude, he will talk junk. He'll show up at Pantoja's door and probably say something hugely inappropriate. Yeah, he's a wild card, but dude, this guy brings eyeballs. I love it.
I agree with all of that. Do you think the way that things went down with Mokaev pre-fight spooked UFC at all?
I wonder. I don't know. That whole thing was weird, right?
What about that Long Island Luke, that they were just constantly like fighting in the fucking hotel and shit?
Yeah, I do think Kopp might have a little issues there, and also he's missed weight a couple times. I don't know why Dana won't give him the title shot if not for those things.
Yeah.
So maybe Dana's just like, look, you're on a good roll now. This is a good stretch. Get one more. There's plenty of good names in this division coming off of losses, right? Like there's a lot of this division's constantly going in different directions at the same time, except for at the title level with Pantoja. Kai Kara France next, but it's time to get Kopp poised in the bullpen and ready to go for that next shot after that.
The weight miss is big because obviously you don't get the 1 pound allowance for the title fight. The UFC hates it when they need guys on short notice to make weight, or obviously for title fights to make weight, and they don't. That is one of the things that pisses them off.
As is if you're a wild card and you can get in a fight at any public event where you could throw the whole card off. I get that.
Yeah.
I don't. Even the comments too. Even the
homophobic slurs.
Yeah, like he goes too far in a lot of categories. He also can win the title on any given night, and I know he hasn't been as consistent as he looked. Long Island Luke, am I wrong in like telling you like he looked like
that was the best he's looked
almost virtuoso at times
since he fought in Japan.
Definitely the best he's ever looked in the UFC by far.
No question.
I mean, the credit of opponent, the caliber of opponent was pretty high, right?
It was.
He's the other Bruno
My only
Silva.
complaint about Kopp, aside from the stuff that he, just being a hothead, let's put it that way, is that he does a lot of styling, and then he does taunting, and then he goes back to styling, and then he goes back to taunting, and then he goes back to styling, and it's just like, let's skip the taunting part and just put them away.
I think it fuels his flow. I think it does.
Yeah, but it also, you do that against elite, super elite guys, and you're going to lose the fight.
Oh, Pantoja will fill that gap with a 2-punch counter combination.
Immediately.
Yes.
Immediately. You cannot do that.
Dude, oh my God, him against Asakura would be fireworks.
They fought already.
I know,
Yeah.
but doing it in the UFC cage?
Yeah.
They fought twice already. They each have a win, which means the trilogy has storyline sense. Is that next?
What about Moreno
Whoa,
or
what
Roy
about
Val?
that?
Yeah, you could do either of those too.
No, here's my call.
Somebody
Here's my
battle-tested.
call. Royval and Moreno go to a
UFC.
trilogy, and we do Kopp against Asakura 3. What do you think about that? 2 trilogies. 2 on the same card. 2 flyweight trilogies on the same day.
You could do that. Mm-hmm. That'd be all right.
I care about this division. I don't want to hear anyone say that this division doesn't need to
Well,
be
it's like
around.
every time it gets to something, they drain it, and then we end up in these problems where it's like, well, who's going to fight next? Well, it's like, well, you got rid of Mokaev, you got rid of half the guys when Demetrius left. No wonder there aren't, the resources needed to build it in the way that it matters.
I love it. I love it. Let's show this picture of Dustin Jacoby with the parallel view of Usman
Holy
knocking
shit.
Masvidal out in the rematch. Wow, right?
Caught him throwing a left hook, and then when you hit him, it just spins him around like a top.
Woo, that was
is
great.
And then he would
stuff.
throw the right hand, and you could see in both cases they throw the right, and in boxing, then they roll underneath in anticipation that the punch is coming, which is why that left hook is there. Incredible.
Incredible stuff. I wish we can show you these, but we have fear of
But then UFC will just shut us down.
copyright infringement. Luke, if this is the end of the road, though, for Cub Swanson at 41, and he seemed to illustrate that conversations between him and his wife were nearing that direction. He didn't go all the way, but he kind of made it seem like he was done. This is a 20-year career which began
insane,
which we first came to know him at a high level in the WEC, and he's fought everyone, and he was still dangerous and relevant into this point in his career. If this is it, how should we remember him? Because I feel like if I would have asked you that 5 or 10 years ago, it would have been way different. It's the totality of what he authored that makes it so special and fun.
I mean, he's played a special role in MMA, right? One of these guys who when you think of WEC excellence, you think of obviously guys like Uriah Faber and Jose Aldo and Dominic Cruz, and these are some of the bigger names. Miguel Torres. But Cub Swanson is part of that as well. Cub Swanson had phenomenal wins in WEC. And after that as well, this is a guy who helped build that, put it on the map. I think that's really important to begin with. But I often talk about this, and it gets lost a little bit because people can only, it seems these days, appreciate, did you win a title and how many times did you defend it?
How many chicks you fuck? It's the same thing. No, it really is. It's the same mentality.
But the truth is, there are a host of fighters who don't ever necessarily reach the very peak that the sport has to offer, but they remain consistently relevant, consistently excellent, high technicians, high excitement value. Matt Brown comes to mind with something like that. Cub Swanson is that. Cub Swanson
Clay
is...
Guida? Jim Miller?
Jim Miller. I think with a little less so, but definitely Jim Miller.
Cowboy Cerrone?
Cowboy Cerrone. Guys who are not the very best that their division has to offer, but are, first of all, very good fighters, and more to the point, lifelong martial artists. When Cub's fighting career is over, whether that is now or in a subsequent fight, he will still train. He will still be in the gym. He will still go, maybe a little less so, a little less hard sparring, that kind of a thing, but it's part of his identity. It's part of his life, and it gives these guys longevity when other people's bad habits or injuries or miscalculations give in. These guys just continue to surf the wave. I have so much respect. If you can have a 20-year fighting MMA career, guys, I'm sorry, you're doing something very right along the way.
And still beating good guys, man.
Oh, dude, he fucking has a win over Dustin Poirier. Like, let's be serious about this. And also to the point, like, a lot of people will be like, oh, this was the guy that lost in what it was, like 9 or 10 seconds to Jose Aldo with a double switch knee. And it's like, okay, that's one of the bad highlights. But I hope that folks understand you cannot judge a guy who is willing to fight all kinds of people across all kinds of situations, across all kinds of generations, when they go up against a generational guy themselves. The story of Cub Swanson is to the point you made. It's the big book.
Yes.
It's not, and there's great individuals. And by the way, the Doo Ho Choi fight put him in the fucking Hall of Fame.
And as much as I usually hate that guys become Hall of Famers from being in an all-time great fight that gets rewarded by UFC, and I'm not against UFC putting fights in the Hall of Fame, just this idea that when he pops on the screen, we go, look, there's Hall of Famer Cub Swanson.
Yeah.
Yet, if you look at the positive of what this does, it really, I guess it kind of helps them create almost an action Hall of Fame with this, if you're getting in because you've been in there for a fight. So he would deserve that because he's been in a few of these that were like this, and he had that fighting spirit. And I wish he had thrown the gloves down and retired in the cage and then skateboarded out of the cage holding an Ocean Spray jug as they played Dreams by Fleetwood Mac, because doesn't he look exactly like that dude who was in that meme?
Not exactly. He looks more like Vince Pichel.
True. Remember that dude in that meme, though, on the skateboard?
Yeah,
he was one of
forget
the
his name.
award speakers at our MMA awards when we won. In
Is
World
that right?
Yeah, he was one of like the celebrities
Also,
that they.
Ocean Spray, not that good of a brand. I'm going to be honest about that.
Why are they too woke for you, or are you just like
Too woke for me.
That's what UFC does. They just get rid of the
Oh,
non-woke. Don't they have a new?
Yeah, they got fuck boys razors or whatever the
there
fuck
you
they're
go.
called. I want to say this. There are guys who can do it better. Like Habib Nurmagomedov did it better, and pick whoever else you want. Conor did it better, but Conor at 41, I don't think will be able to do what Cub has been able to do, because it's who he is. There are guys who might be better at making it their job, but this is Cub's identity, and that's why I think even when fighting is over, he will always have a relationship to training, because the martial arts have defined his life.
And he certainly will have a relationship to the fans, because he's starting to get that like old school, like we just love this guy, like the thank you chairs all the time. It seems like where like the fans are just like, that's my guy. He's become one of those that's my guys for the fight.
Dude,
fans.
you have, again, like Dustin Poirier, family guy.
Yeah.
Never in trouble. You never hear people who train with him shit talking him. Nothing ever. It doesn't happen. Never pop for PEDs. None of that shit. Never crossed the line in any kind of way other than when it was time to cross the line in the sand to go throw the fucking hands.
And he was in Morning Kombat documentary number 3.
When he told you to go fuck yourself?
No, when we went to the Bellator fights and he was there cornering Archuleta, and he was just sitting there like, yeah, and you're like, hey, Cub, what's up? And the camera looks at him. He's just like, not even looking at you.
Oh, all right.
It was great. I think that was an editing trick, though. 2 more quickly to highlight. Or one quick, Michael Johnson's not, he's probably not going in the direction he claims he is on this 2-fight win streak, where he says at age 38, he's ready to get back into contention. With that said, it looks like he's rejuvenated to a certain degree.
Dude, he can
to a certain degree.
He can beat anybody.
He's 23-19, Luke.
True or false, Luke? Michael Johnson on any given day can beat anyone, and on any given day can lose to anyone.
100%. I'm still salty about the time he knocked out Dustin Poirier. I had a lot of money on that fight.
Poirier threw a lead uppercut and with no setup, and he got crushed for it.
And he still can do that to any elite at any point, which is your point on that. He's 23-19. He survived that like 4 or 5 fight losing streak when he fought.
He's the best fighter I've ever seen with basically a 500 record.
It's insane, but I'm happy for him, and I hope he gets a fun fight from the momentum that he's been building.
I'll say this. I think more than any other KO on that card, that one got the biggest pop.
Yeah.
The crowd went fucking bananas for that one.
Why do we never talk about Sean Woodson at featherweight, though, when he is 15-1-1? He's unbeaten in his last 7. I know he hasn't. The answer is probably because he hasn't beat those step-up names yet and hasn't had the chance to fight them. But, Luke, his boxing was brilliant with that. I wish I could play you that film right now so we can talk about it. The combinations, the level changing, the everything. I mean, it was just, dude, when that guy is so... He has such a unique body style, and we know the story of him being a former heavyweight that he's already sort of like freakish in a sense. But, dude, he seems to have the right attitude, the work ethic. We just need to see him against someone good now.
By the way, 3 wins in 2024.
Yeah,
3
like,
wins.
And he said it afterwards. He had a mic drop moment. He was just sort of like, what was that chant he yelled? He was like, rank me, pay me, something like that.
I don't remember.
Give me that 50 G's. It's time to see what he can do, right?
He definitely looks like somebody cobbled together 3 different body types and put them on the same guy.
My dad used to take my G.I. Joes and he would unhook them from the big rubber band on the inside, and then I can interchange their body parts.
That's cool. That's cool.
That was cool.
A little weird, but
I don't think it's that weird.
he is good. But I think before I'm ready to be like, oh, the boxing was amazing. He definitely looked great. Please don't misunderstand me. The KO was nice too, but he needs to step up in competition. He did beat Charles Jourdain via split.
And this guy Padilla was not easy.
Not bad.
Yeah.
But I think there's another level. He needs to be tested. He's 32. Now's the time.
Damn right.
Now's the time.
Representing St. Louis. You like that lower midriff tat with like the skyline behind it and like the almost like a tattoo, like an arch, like on Tupac and yours?
Yeah. Kind of like a little geography base. You got the SoCal one on Cub Swanson too.
Yes. If Cub Swanson did want to come back, why would we not put him in there with Nate Landwehr?
Oh, that's a good one. Why not do the rematch with Duho Choi?
Because they would kill each other. That's probably why. But
Okay,
unless if you pay him enough and put it on a pay-per-view.
Yeah, pay him enough. Fuck it.
All right, there we go. Hey, let's move on here. We got topic number 3, and that's the post-fight press conference from UFC Tampa on Saturday when Dana White addressed the media. And Luke, Dana White 100% guaranteed that UFC fans can expect John Jones versus Tom Aspinall and a must-see heavyweight title unification in 2025. But Luke, even though we have heard nothing but mixed messages from Jones on this exact topic, his track record, meaning Bones, pretty damn good outside of the UFC 151 debacle. It kind of speaks for itself. So who do you trust more on this topic, Dana White or John Jones, to the idea of whether we do see the Aspinall fight next year?
I collected a little research, if I may. I'd like to share this with the audience about Dana White's guarantees. Now, let me make my
No, you're going to do that.
Let me make my point here.
Don't pop my balloon.
Let me make my point. I am not suggesting that Dana White doesn't know better than us. He probably, almost certainly does. I'm sure he does. I'm not suggesting to you that the fight won't happen. That's not my point. I want to be very clear. I would love nothing more than the fight to happen. And Dana is right, by the way. That fight would be absolutely huge. I don't think it crosses 2 million buys. I think that's a little aggressive, but I do think it does huge numbers. It's easily one of the top 3 biggest fights that the UFC can make next year. Agreed?
Yes.
Okay. So I hope he makes it. I hope that it gets made. I don't know if it will be made, but I don't think the guarantee language means a lot to me. May I go through a list I have cobbled together for you?
Oh, no. Does this involve Zuffa boxing?
And then some. And then some.
We have purchased an island.
Okay. In February of 2008, Dana White said, quote, I'm going to be as bold as I'm going to be as bold as to say, I guarantee you that we're going to either be in the Boston Garden or Madison Square Garden by the end of the year. They did not end up going
this
there.
Is petty and deep here. Where are we going?
In July of 2013, he said that George St. Pierre would end up fighting Rory McDonald. Quote, I think these guys are handling like professionals doing their thing. And when the day comes, they're going to be there. I guarantee you they'll fight. They did not fight. In January of 2012, he said that New York would sanction the sport. Quote, it's going to happen. I guarantee it's going to happen this year. It did not happen until 2016. In September of 2021, he said that Jake Paul would never call out Anderson Silva. Quote, I fucking guarantee you this. You ain't going to see Jake Paul calling out Anderson Silva. That is not going to happen. I promise you. He, in fact, did go on to fight him and then beat him. In October of 2012, he said that John Jones would fight, by the way, Anderson Silva. Quote, I guarantee you that fight will absolutely happen. It did not end up happening. In October of 2019, he said he was going to work with Zuffa Boxing, and guess who? Al Heyman. Quote, I can guarantee you that I'll be working with Al Heyman. He did not do that. Need I say more? Hashtag Tachi Palace. There are lots of guarantees that he makes over the years.
Amanda Nunes will never main event another pay-per-view after not being able to make
I could do this all day long.
Yeah.
I want to be clear. He could be right. I hope he's right.
I'll counter you.
But him saying it's a guarantee does not mean anything.
I can shit in a box and write guarantee on the outside. I will say, look, the counter argument to that is he's got a great track record because of the control that him and the matchmakers have over the fighters of delivering almost all of the things we've ever wanted, although you bring up good points. But let's hear him talk and give the reasoning and see if maybe this changes your mind.
Jones versus Aspinall, is that sort of the big priority, and you think that's the biggest fight the promotion can put on in 2025?
100%. And I think it's probably the biggest fight in heavyweight history, and it's a massive fight in the history of the company too. It's a big fight.
Yeah, we know Tom Aspinall's down. Jones is kind of like on the fence, or at least that's what he said publicly. But
Right.
have you talked?
It's weird.
How confident?
What's weird about that? Let me tell you what's weird about that. So usually, those guys say that shit behind the scenes and not publicly. John says that shit publicly, but not behind the scenes. John is a very unique individual to deal with. From day one, I've been confident that John Jones would do that fight, right? I mean, even before the fight. I said if he won, there's no way John doesn't do this fight. John Jones isn't afraid to fight anybody, and that's a fact. And the only time that anything remotely weird has ever happened with John Jones was the time that his fucking camp did the weird Chael Sonnen thing. We can't fight Chael Sonnen on short notice. Other than that, and that wasn't him, it was his team, and he listened to his team for whatever reason. But that's like the goofiest fucking move in the history of the UFC. But other than that, John Jones behind the scene is not a guy that turns down fights.
Would you guarantee 100% we see that fight?
Yeah, Danny. Nice question.
Yeah. I'll say 100%.
Yeah. Again, he's said that many times. And
Okay,
many times it's been true. Hold on. Let's be fair. Many times it's been true. Many times it has not been true.
Okay, but the point he makes about John's track record, I do think needs to be taken into consideration. But is he missing the 3 years that John set out while Ngannou was in the title picture and then coming back the second Ngannou leaves? Like, is Dana right where he says outside of that UFC 151 moment, John has always been about fighting the best? Or is this Dana trying to take the attention off of what this is really about, which is John wanting to be paid like he's the greatest of all time, which we have on record said he deserves?
I mean, we just got off the last media cycle where Dana goes, hey, Merab stormed into the offices demanding to fight Umar. And then they asked Merab about it. He was like, yeah, maybe he kind of indicated that like they were leaning on him to take the fight. This is what I mean. Again, I hope he's right. He might be right. It would be awesome if he's right. Let's fingers crossed, knock on wood, that he's right. I'm simply telling you, he's a promoter.
All right,
He's a promoter.
I was at 55% coming in belief that this fight will happen next year. Based on these comments, I'll bring it up to 58%. I'm currently at 58% that we.
What's the Long Island Luke confidence meter?
I was going to go 60%.
Oh, yeah, let's go. Let's
after
get
this
high
comment.
on this.
After this comment.
Come on, get high.
Yeah. Even though I have a demonstrated record of him making guarantees that don't come true.
I do want to nitpick at one of your
Yes.
guarantees was that Jake Paul will never call out Anderson. Like he's talking about a fighter calling out a fighter. It's not like a UFC fight made guarantee like this is.
Sure, that's a little different, but I'm telling you the confidence with which he's asserting it
All right, well, let's
is
hear.
is overstated.
So Tom Aspinall was on Pierce Morgan, and this topic came up. And
Pierce.
Pierce Morgan.
It's not Pierce. It's like Pierce, like Chelsea Pierce.
Yeah, the thing is, I really don't care. That's the thing. You know what I mean? Like, that's a donk to me. But hey, Tom is on there, and he kind of corroborated Dana's story.
And actually, right after that press conference, I had a meeting with Dana. So in all honesty, I was expecting him to come and we maybe negotiate a little bit. And he literally walked into the room and said, it's happening. And I said, well, he's going to want loads of money. And he said, I know, but it's happening. And he said, it's going to be the biggest fight in UFC history. So
does that mean John Jones has agreed?
I don't know what in all honesty, John Jones is like, nobody knows what he's doing, even the UFC. So I don't know.
He says he wants fuck you money. I imagine Dana will pay him fuck you money, won't he?
I would imagine so. I mean, I can't speak for Dana, but I would
you
imagine
get
so.
fuck you money?
No.
How much would you get for that fight?
I don't really care about money at this point. I mean, obviously, I've got a family. I want to make as much money as I can. But to me, what's more important is unifying the belts.
Guys, how much theater around this shit do you need to see before some skepticism creeps in? Are you getting fuck you money? Fuck no. Do you know if it's signed? I don't know. Like, oh, he just declared it's true. What the fuck does that mean?
Okay.
Again, I want to be clear. I'm not telling you it's not going to happen.
I hear you.
What I'm telling you is we got to wait.
Right. Dana is also still campaigning and getting in everyone's head, and he's playing the game with them. But given Jones's track record and the fact that we believe it does come down to whether or not they will pay him a certain amount, that decides if this fight's going to happen. I have to say, as a UFC fan, as a journalist who gets mad when I feel like they're constantly watering down the product and not doing enough big things that build stars and builds momentum and leads to huge fights, this is exactly what how I want the promotion to act. Confident that's going to happen, saying it matter of fact, and now they just have to be willing to turn that dollar sign up. And I think they're treating this like this is the fight that would demand them to do something like that. Break glass in case necessary. I know there's a fear in creating some type of, this is what people should expect moving forward. But by trying to call this potentially the biggest fight of all time, it gives them a reason to jack up that price. Luke, does it only come down at this point to whether UFC meets John's demands? Or do you think there's a part of John that actually is still questioning if it's worth taking it in light of what his resume would be like if he lost?
Yeah, I mean, I think the hang up such that it exists is John, right? Because listen to Tom. It's like, are you getting fuck you money? No, but he still wants it. Okay, so he's all in.
Tom wants to be great, yeah.
And Tom wants to be great. And obviously, Tom's in a very different position than John.
Yes.
He needs this fight in a way that I understand John doesn't need it
Tom's not in the
nearly as
1% of people who make a shit ton of money in the UFC yet, and he wants to be. And
That's exactly it. So it's a different perspective. And we know the UFC wants it. We know the fans want it. It really comes down to John. But I want to be clear, like, I don't think John's demand for fuck you money is unreasonable. He was asking for Deontay Wilder money back in 2021 and didn't get it. He is entitled to it in that respect. I just mean, a lot of times promoters will say things like, oh, yeah, this guy will take the fight. He really wants it. That's them putting public pressure on the fighter to take it. That's them being like, oh, yeah, this guy's ready. He wants it. It's not buttering them up. It's saying, I'm telling the fans that you want it. And so if the fight falls apart, it's not me who didn't want it. We told you this guy was like, oh, he was ready for it.
Oh, yeah, they'll roll the bus over it.
He changed his mind.
Yes,
not we changed ours, even though that may not necessarily be a fair recitation. Again, I hope it gets made, but these assurances are a little hollow to me, just given the track record.
I have to believe that the real bosses here, the people that control the money, the TKO group, I got to believe that they want this badly and should want this.
I think what they really want is to entrench their monopoly and not have to spend more than they ever have to get.
That's also true.
Yes,
that's also dominantly true.
That's what we're up against here.
Yeah, Dana has one more idea that a lot of people are getting excited about. Let's hear him.
Anticipate a lot of big fights. I got something in the works right now. I'll drive you fuckers crazy. All you guys will be running around. I got something in the works that you will never fucking see coming for 2025. That literally started to come together last night, and yeah, we got some fun stuff coming up.
So that either means a former UFC fighter that you never thought would be back is considering making a comeback, or a fighter is looking to make a dramatic move up in weight and take a chance, and they like this idea. What is it, and who do you think? Long Island Luke and I were going crazy earlier trying to, it's not Rousey, then is it GSP? Is it this? Is it Habib? Like, what is it?
I don't know.
It better not be like Conor Nate 3, which would be cool, but like that's not the thing. That can't be the thing.
Oh, it can definitely be the thing. I mean, dude, they made big promises about UFC 300, and the card was amazing, but your main event was Jamal Hill and Alex Poatan.
Okay, so him saying we just got a call last night, if that was Nate Diaz's people saying we're ready to do the Conor trilogy,
yeah, it could be.
They just drop it. That you could argue that the best way to dial down the interest in asking Conor about his rape trial upon his return, which will be inevitable and should be inevitable.
Dude, they're not going to ask him shit.
If they do the Nate trilogy, that topic will be the number 2 topic behind the actual fight and trilogy.
They're not going to ask Conor shit. Come on, be serious.
Oh, they have to.
BC. How naive are you being right now?
So you say that the group of people that
hold on,
that show up to every UFC card, you're telling me that when they finally get that media day scrum with Conor that fight week, that it will not be referenced or
there might be a little bit at first. It will be quickly squashed.
I'm not saying they're going to attack.
And then they'll just move on. Listen, this is going to sound like I'm doing some kind of an attack on all those guys. I like a lot of those guys. You heard Danny Segura. I love Danny.
Yeah.
And then Danny will speak his mind too. Like I'm not saying him. But there are people whose job it is to be the front-facing version of a media organization that goes to these events and kind of tangles with Dana.
Aaron Bronstetter.
But he works for the Canadian UFC partner, the broadcast partner. So he's got some.
But he has got to tip. They all have to tiptoe.
Well, I mean, that's literally their partner. There's going to be some restrictions. But the point I wanted to make is we have to stop indulging this fiction that MMA journalism still exists, right? There are people. Let me finish.
It's dead, but it's not. It's there.
It's fucking dead.
It's alive. It's just barely alive.
There are guys who do it individually. Your John Nashes and so forth, and there are people who do individual journalistic acts. You get actually a fair amount of that.
MMA Draw is great for journalism.
Right. They do exactly. They do individual acts. But the people who are on the front lines to deal with the UFC, they no longer have their job. And when I say this, I'm saying their editors, their producers do not want them to be in a position where that boat is rocked such that they lose access. The entire, and this was not always the case. There were people who kind of towed the line who would be there and then not be there and then be there. Now it is segregated. There are people who are just there. That job on the front line is to be essentially stenographers. That's the job now. And we pretend that it hasn't fully morphed into that when it quite obviously has. There are people who do commentary even at the same media outlets, but those are not the front line people, not consistently.
I hear you, but it's going to be asked, and it should be asked.
I think one person asks one question, Connor says, I don't want to talk about it, and then they just move on. That's it.
Interesting. One final thing on Dana. He said about Dustin. Oh, sorry. Before I get into Dustin Poirier, there's no chance it's Ngannou, right? Who has one fight left on his PFL deal?
Dude, they won't even.
You're right. No chance.
I saw John Nash, who I love. He was like, well, it could be possible because he won't be with PFL anymore. He's got one more fight, and then there would be no co-promotion problems. True. Dana holds grudges like an elephant has memory for fucking life.
All right, so Long Island Luke threw out earlier Terrence Crawford in a hybrid fight or something. I mean, is it something crazy like that?
Which would be unbelievable.
I got that. I got Rico Verhoeven versus Poetan.
I don't hate this. Yes.
That'd be sick. I'd be okay with that. I know for a fact that the Glory folks wanted to talk to PFL about seeing if there's a way to get Rico and Francis going.
All right,
that's what put it in my head.
I got one more poll for you. You're gonna hate it.
Is it Butterbean?
Fedor.
Dude, they're not gonna.
I'm just throwing it out there. Okay, I'm just throwing it out there.
They're not gonna do Fedor again. Grudges.
All right, Dane.
I got one more.
Yeah.
I just thought of it, and I know it was kind of shut down like in the last week, but maybe DJ. There's an update there, and we got DJ Pantoja. Maybe.
He did say no, but maybe they came back and said, we'll give you some sick cash.
He did say like a call just happened, so you got to throw away anything from the past.
That's a good theory.
And it did align with DJ showing up in Habib and Islam's camp as an instructor.
Now, wasn't he helping Umar?
I don't know the context of that. You'll see it and have you seen the shit, and you can tell me more. But Dana said Dustin Poirier's retirement plan is in like negotiation, and he seems to have a fight identified. Who do you think it is? There's been a lot of Chandler trash talk online.
Chandler's a good one. Chandler or Hooker? Somebody he's already fought.
All right, the Hooker one is great. That might be the best fight in Apex history, right? Hooker Poirier.
That's up there. That's up there.
I would so much rather see him and Chandler in a trilogy, knowing the hate between them. You down with that? Is that a trilogy? Yeah. Right?
Which one?
Wait, Chandler and Poirier fought once, right?
They fought once.
Oh, so it'd be a rematch, dude. That fight was gnarly. That fight was it was I think it stood out on its own in that group of action fights between all those guys as being extra kind of hairy. Not as good as Gaethje versus Poirier 1. But
Gaethje Poirier,
which I think is still my favorite in that.
That's a brutal ass fight.
That really is, yeah.
So
these are all great fights. This would really it's split in hairs here, yeah.
Dana said on this that Dustin wants to do something he's always wanted to do. Do you think it's just like headlining in Louisiana or something?
That maybe 170.
Oh, 170 against I hope not Colby.
I don't.
He doesn't want.
Who knows?
Yeah. Interesting stuff. Okay, that's all I got for you on that. Let's keep the chains and the tires moving here. Let's go to topic number 4. And Luke, February 1st is going to see a UFC Fight Night card in Riyadh, not a pay-per-view. But this might feel like one after the main and co-main were announced Saturday morning on social media. Dana White coming out and saying Israel Adesanya will face Nasruddin Imavov in a middleweight 5-round main event. And in the co-main event, February 1st, Shara Bullet Magomedov will meet a Michael Venom Page at middleweight, moving up in weight. Early odds from DraftKings are on the main event only. Have Adesanya minus 185 and Imavov plus 154. So, Luke, I got a couple of things to say, but hearing this, that this fight night card is this loaded, is it fair to say that in general UFC is no longer really looking? I know there's people that say they're no longer looking to serve the fan, that they're just serving government contracts, but are they no longer looking to serve the American fan along with Dana's beef with MGM, which we've seen weaker cards in Vegas? Is any of that real by this, that it's the people with the bigger money in these bigger nations that have put down the bigger site fees that's going to decide whether these are the super cards or not?
Well, this is not a super card. This is a super card by fight night standards. Is that what you mean?
But the whole point is that the quality at live fights is exponentially going up internationally, while the domestic ones are coming. New York is not what it used to be. International Fight Week is not what it used to be.
Yeah, I mean, we should just be honest. Like, you know, this is much more pronounced in boxing than it is in MMA, like significantly so. The Saudis have done something kind of interesting. By that, I mean the following. They are clearly pumping tons of money into the fight game. We are having Usyk Fury 2. Usyk Fury 1 was in Saudi Arabia, but the list of all the fights that they have paid for is
14 months of Riyadh season. And it's changed the game.
It's changed the game. And even before that, I mean, remember like Clash of the Dunes when it was the Joshua and Andy Ruiz rematch and everything? There's a lot of that happening. So you can't say that there aren't big fights happening in boxing. There are. You can't say that guys aren't getting paid. They are. But what's happening is they're draining the North American market. All the fights that would have gone in New York or Las Vegas or LA, not all of them, but many of them, are all now being pushed back over to Saudi Arabia. And you might say, well, didn't they just have in August the Riyadh season event in LA? Yes, but it was a financial disaster to the point where apparently Turkey from his bosses got marching orders that these fights need to be just back in Saudi Arabia. We're not going to do this in LA. This is having an effect on, in particular, dude, boxing used to be on Showtime and HBO, gone. Used to be on Fox Sports, gone. Used to still on ESPN, but that remains very uncertain. Not on CBS, not on NBC. Used to be on NBC, gone. It has been removed from the American market to this point, and I actually worry about the future of boxing as a consequence. Now, UFC is different because they are not giving their premier product over, but they are, to your point, between this and Abu Dhabi or UAE anyway, you're getting a ton of quality that used to be in the United States that's all getting shipped over. And I don't know what that means for the long-term market.
This is the other side of the Saudi equation. Normally we look at the other side of the Saudi equation as you give us these great fights and we just put up with or tolerate whatever amounts of sports washing or whatever we think that side of it is and the whole political entanglements that come with that. Well, we get these great fights, and we still will get these great fights, and there's been reason to have a ton of optimism about where boxing is going to be heading into 25. But Luke, you, and by proxy, shout out to John S. Nash on his Hey Not the Face podcast with guest Kurt Emhoff, where they talked about this topic at a really high level, and I appreciated hearing that. You do have to start to wonder what this means for boxing in the States or North America or fights in general, because Luke, whether it's the MGM feud with Dana fueling this or not, the Las Vegas cards are going down in quality.
Look at the results of the last one.
And when you're not treating MSG like a major anymore, and International Fight Week, which originally had Conor on top, which was a big deal for sure, but was a very watered down card below that and has become that, it just feels like the majors are now whenever Abu Dhabi or Saudi Arabia is involved. It feels like a major. This is a fight night card, and it kind of feels like a major, right? It's it just because there's two kind of sexy fights atop of it. And I don't want to, spend all this time being fearful and not talking about the quality of the fights and who's in these fights and all that. But we do have to follow these trends and signs and movements. And people like Zach Arnold and John S. Nash that are out here kind of covering it and also giving what the future could look like. It's not great news. There's a price to pay for the Saudi arrangement and having this much access to great fights.
No such thing as a free lunch.
And that's one of it. And maybe we didn't expect that or talk about that enough, but that's certainly one of it, because even when the fights are taking place on foreign soil, it's not just the fights are airing at a different time of the day. There's not as much budget and energy and effort put into promoting it in the States. It's just not. You know what I mean? You don't see, and you miss that buzz in the cities, obviously, of when a big American fight has that.
Also on the boxing side, this is something that they brought up, John Nash and who is the boxing Esquire guy?
Kurt Emhoff. Boxing attorney.
A great conversation. One thing they point out, and I've had some conversations with some folks after that podcast I heard, I hit up some people who might know better. Dude, like, how many U.S. subscribers do we think DAZN has? Do they have 1 million? I seriously doubt it.
It's hard to know. I mean, I know their focus is so much more on the other international companies where they have countries where they have NFL and full soccer rights.
Yeah. Boxing has sold their ass. These prostitutes have sold their ass to somebody who has just removed it from the place where it, and obviously it's Mexico and everything else, but the North America, let's say. And by the way, UK too. UK has lost out on a huge amount of fights that are now being moved over there. It's good that big fights are being made, but if none of them are going to be made in the places where these guys are from and where their fan bases have been cultivated, you're going to lose those fans over the course of time.
Sure.
Something to think about.
Yeah, no, you're missing that buzz, that thing that happens where you can infect others with, hey, you're talking about this fight, you hear about this fight. It does kind of make it, for us, we're in the fight game, it's all we care about and breathe. We're going to inhale it anyway, but you can feel the difference for sure. But about the actual fight, Luke, Adesanya will be in his first non-title fight in his last, 12, dating back to 2018 or 19 when he fought Anderson Silva. I've got it written right here. First since the 2019 win over Anderson Silva.
That's insane.
And he's lost 3 of his last 4, including back-to-backs, but retains being a slight favorite here from DraftKings at -185 against a streaking Imavov. What do you make of this fight?
I love this fight. I think it is a fantastic match, fantastic matchmaking. Imavov, I think, has been limited, but improving. Has good wrestling.
A poor man's Gegard?
No, he's got better wrestling than that.
Okay.
But maybe not the same. Musasi had better jiu-jitsu, so it's a little bit of a kind of a mix there. Anyway, the point I wanted to make was he is now a relevant force at middleweight, and obviously we're not getting peak Izzy. That is over. So you're kind of wondering, well, what is left? How good could it be? This is a great opportunity for Imavov. If you can get a win here, you can really surge to the top of that division. By contrast, if you're Izzy, you can show that even in a diminished state relative to what was like, again, he's the second best middleweight of all time, no questions asked. He can still beat these really, really tough top contenders along the way. That would be, just again, we talked about longevity, right? Not just what your peak was, but your longevity.
Yes.
And to have some of that would be pretty special.
Now, I agree with everything you said right there. I want to see Izzy.
I saw a smirk develop when I started talking.
Well, sometimes you say things that trigger, possible Reddit reactions or just possible spin-off jokes.
What did I say?
And I always have to weigh in that moment of like, is it worth derailing the flow of the conversation for this joke that may only have a 33% chance of hitting? You know what I mean? So anyway, I love to see Izzy have to go back and earn his way back into a huge, fight in the title picture. And at 35, we're going to be looking closely, from here on out for sure of what he has left and how much longer he wants to keep doing this. But, dude, before succumbing to DDP there, he was lighting him up at some points in that fight. He looked kind of ready again at that level, right?
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't a disastrous loss.
No, the ending was weird because when it went bad, it went bad like super quickly.
Yes, it did.
But I do agree, like he's not without still many of his skills.
But you're right. This is great matchmaking because this is the perfect fight to see where he's at in this. And then on that co-main event, I can't figure it out. Is this a step up or a step back for, it's the best quality of name that Shara Bullet's fought. And it's not like I don't think Michael Page is, going to look completely out of form at middleweight. But is this the right step forward for somebody in Shara Bullet who's through 4 UFC fights, who's gaining a lot of attention quickly and seems to be, because they only put him in Abu Dhabi or Saudi Arabia, seems to be building a following too. Is this the right fight against a recognized name to get him to that next level?
Well, part of the issue for Shara Bullet is Dana White even admitted, which is it commission shopping to admit that we can't take him stateside because of his eye?
Yeah, that's interesting too.
I don't really know what the story is with that. That's a little weird. Like most promoters don't openly admit to commission shopping.
Well, it seems like as MMA, we found out after the fact that Bisping fought with one eye for a lot of it, and we were just like, oh my God, did that really happen in the modern era?
Yeah.
And now I just feel like everybody's in on that it's happening to this guy too, and there seems to not be concern.
I think that's right. I like this fight. I like both of these fights. This one is, again, I think the current rankings have MVP at like 15 at welterweight. So it's a bit of a wild card middleweight move.
Like he could get, meaning Shara Bullet could get exposed by the way that MVP controls you with that. He can lull you into a scared sleep with all the movements and the unpredictability.
Totally.
It could totally bring down the work ethic of Shara Bullet and make this a tough fight. But it's also one against an aging welterweight that you could see Shara Bullet making that leap. It's tough. Every time I feel like we've seen, ceilings coming in the future of how good he can be, he'll come through with a destructive knockout finish. I mean, these spinning double spinning back fist or elbow last time?
Yeah, bop, bop. Like
Just,
that.
just ridiculous.
The possibility, I mean, again, Sharp Bullet is going to be limited by the UFC's geographic calendar. So if they're going to go to Saudi Arabia, he basically has to be on that or that of the UAE, right? That's what we think. So that's part of what's happening. But the MVP fight in particular is just a fun matchup that could go a lot of different ways. Bullet doesn't have to be, probably doesn't worry about being taken down in all likelihood. He is the natural middleweight of the two. We've seen Michael Venom Page in person. We interviewed him in London. He's a big guy.
He's fought middleweight before, but not since 2013.
Right. Exactly. That's the point. Like, he's much more naturally suited for welterweight. But nevertheless, it's a fun fight. It is out of left field. But again, are the fans complaining? I don't hear any complaints. We like it.
Yeah.
It doesn't exactly fit the normal hierarchy of what you're looking for. But I think in the end, it serves a lot of other roles that fans enjoy. And for that reason, let it fly.
And Sharp Bullet's kind of in that gray area between being an attraction fighter and wanting to become a legit contender. And this is, you got to handle that carefully. This might be careful, but also enough of a challenge. So I like it. We'll see what happens.
Agreed.
Let's go to topic number 5, which is what goes down Saturday in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, the rematch of what we saw in May when Oleksandr Usyk continued his unbeaten start to his career, handed the first defeat of Tyson Fury's career, and became the first 4-belt undisputed heavyweight champion of this modern era. All 4 belts will not be at stake in this rematch because the IBF stripped Usyk for taking this rematch and not defending against a mandatory. Daniel Dubois, of course, has picked up that title. But Luke, it doesn't change what the stakes are. We know what happened in that first fight when Usyk won a unanimous decision, had Fury rocked, wobbled, nearly out of there. So what do you think is the biggest sort of storyline or point of focus that you have in the fan in you as you look ahead to Saturday's fight?
I will tell you, and I think that I'm really curious to hear what you have to say about this. I have been reading about this fight. I've been reading about the storylines. Most of the interesting storylines you got from the first fight that are not really repeatable here, right? The first time they fought, it was, hey, we haven't had a unified champion, again, 3-belt, 4-belt era, basically since what? Lennox, Holyfield 2, which had been 25 years before that. Usyk, the great cruiserweight, finally ends up becoming the great heavyweight of that era. We learned who the guy was at that time for this moment. The whole 9 yards, like all of these grand visions and stories about history all led to that moment. This is a redo. The redo part to me really only has major implications, I suppose, right now for the fight itself. Now, obviously, if Fury wins, they're going to do a trilogy.
Yes.
But if Usyk wins, you don't really add a ton. I mean, I'm not going to say, it sounds so crazy. A second fight over Fury, a big win, would be hugely valuable. I'm not saying it's not. I hope I'm not being unclear by saying that. What I guess I'm trying to point out is the arc of history, the big narratives, they're not really a big part of the pre-fight build here.
Not as much as the first, but they should be, because it's almost like we accepted and understood that this was a 2-fight series, given the way the contract was set up, that the loser could activate the rematch, and that what is this really for? It's really for to find out whose era is this at heavyweight.
Yes.
And we all knew we weren't going to really know that until after the second fight anyway, the way it's set up. So it's sort of almost
it's like a
continuation.
Yeah, it's like round 13, what is one actual fight. So there's not, I guess what I'm trying to point out is not that there's no story here, of course there is, but it's just a ... continuation of the same ones that we had essentially. And these are huge stories, to your point. Is Usyk the guy of this generation? Can Fury wrestle that back? And if so, what will it mean? Especially if Fury's able to get a dominant win, which it's going to be hard against Usyk, but, certainly on the table. But I don't think we have, when I think about this fight and what's driving it, people are talking about the fight itself and how it might go, less about what it means, because even if Fury wins, Usyk has claimed something, at least in part, that cannot be taken from him.
Dude, if Usyk has a chance to finish this career undefeated after everything he's accomplished, he's going to have one of the craziest careers in history. And by proxy, if Fury can win the heavyweight title for the 3rd time on Saturday and join the list that includes guys like Ali and Holyfield, and it's a very short list, by the way, then we're not only setting up the stage for a trilogy, but it reestablishes everything that Tyson Fury has accomplished throughout his career. And let's not forget the result of the fight. Even though I picked Usyk, and so did a lot of people in the first one, it was shocking to see the smaller man Usyk not try to outbox Fury from distance and do what we most know Usyk for, but was purposefully more offensive after what was a really good start for Fury, going to the body, acting like the bigger man, establishing some level of dominance. Luke, when that fight turned in the middle, it turned way more aggressively than we expected, where Usyk could have Fury hurt. I think we've got a aerial replay of that round. If you want to look back to May, Luke, remember this. This is the round where Usyk hurt Fury and nearly had him down. Then they ended up calling a knockdown when Fury, when the ropes
he stumbled around and it took him a minute. And then he was saved by the bell, essentially.
So the crazy thing is we didn't expect this method of performance from Usyk. I don't even think Fury did. You do have to wonder, because this is Fury. Did he take Usyk somehow a little bit lightly and he didn't expect this?
Right here. This is that shot right there.
So the whole point is, I think we all feel like Fury can fight better in the rematch. We were surprised that Usyk, maybe even Fury, like I said, was surprised by that. But now it's, can Fury go back to the drawing board, correct the wrong stylistically, find a way to establish himself throughout the whole fight as the bigger puncher and the bigger man, and make it really a fight on his terms the whole time. That's the central tension of what I want to see. Turkey also got them all on, they're both on FaceTime. So a week out from the fight. Let's see this humorous debacle.
We need to put Usyk in this phone call.
Hello, freak! Hello.
Hello! How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm very feel.
I am feel.
Don't leave him alone.
Don't be afraid. I will not leave you alone.
I'm very afraid.
Dude, this is like awesome. Seriously, that these guys can be this great and this legendary, but they have a respect for each other. There's almost a playfulness. I don't hate this. Seriously. It's cool. These guys are hilarious.
I come for you, belly.
Luke, no one's talking about this moment from the first fight. Should they be talking about it more? This was in between rounds. Usyk either vaped or there was some like illegal, inhaler or something. What do you make of that?
Wait, what?
This was from their first fight.
Okay.
Footage between rounds seemed to maybe catch Usyk either vaping.
Yeah, no, that's probably concentrated oxygen.
Or using what could be like an illegal inhaler. I don't know whatever became of that complaint, but it was...
I mean, it's in Saudi Arabia. They just hack up journalists there. Who cares?
Well, we definitely want to see if Fury can change the outcome. Let's hear from his promoter, Frank Warren, who believes that his fighter does have a very good strategy and angle to come over the top and force that trilogy.
Usyk has a weakness that Tyson did not exploit like he should
enough,
which is his body.
Yeah, absolutely.
He didn't exploit that enough.
bullshit.
And I'm telling you something, that'd be rectified.
Is it just a case of, does he just have to be more aggressive?
Of course
Fury?
you have.
I think
that's exactly right. Even when he was backing off him, there was quite a bit in that early rounds of that fight where Tyson was in the corner. And he's in the corner and he's tucking up, and Usyk was being very aggressive. But what Usyk does when he's got you he stands square on. And that's when he was clipping him with that uppercut. He caught him every time with that.
Got to be careful what you say about Frank. He'll sue you, but he's full of shit. Tyson went to the body relentlessly in that fight.
And then Usyk made that mid-fight adjustment, and it became a completely different
he's totally
fight.
fucking wrong.
I think what he's saying is Tyson's got to be the bully in there, and he's got to be able to. He's got to change he has to control the terms of this fight, and that's always the central
Tyson,
answer.
It reminds me a little bit of the first fight with Wilder, where he was with Ben Davison. He was fighting on the outside.
Yes.
And then the second fight, he just took the fight to Wilder. How can you beat Usyk if he's on the front foot and then dominating the timing and then the distance and that long guard that he uses? He's hard to beat that way. But, and I asked you this over text, is there a guy who's really backed up, consistently backed up anyway, Usyk? And the answer was Chisora, but Chisora is not as good as Fury.
No, it was brightest at times in that semifinal of the World Boxing Super Series, which was probably Usyk's toughest and closest fight, but Usyk inevitably turns it on you and starts coming after you in the second half of these fights and starts breaking you down and looking for the finish, even though he's not a big puncher for this weight
Also,
division.
I noticed something too that I didn't pick up on as readily. Just sometimes you watch fights and you see things you never saw before, or at least you saw them in a way you didn't appreciate. Fury has defense where his lead hand is down the whole time. Remember that? Like he doesn't do this.
Right.
And Usyk does. And there's many reasons for that. And again, it's not like one style is wrong versus the other, but sometimes it's not the right thing for the right circumstance. We'll talk more about this on Friday.
Yeah.
But Usyk would bring his guard up, get popped on it, but not move, and then march.
So he never gets out of punching range. He just keeps increasing that pressure.
He never backs up and he's long. But Fury will step and lean all the way to do this, and he ends up surrendering space constantly.
Yeah.
I really wonder. And dude, I'm not saying anything.
And
Sugar
by the way,
Hill
that
Stewart
works
doesn't know.
against every other heavyweight but Usyk.
That's totally right. Usyk has just the right kind of setup
where he pulls
keep him-
Fury's best strength away, takes it away from him, which is why even we have to consider, look, Fury's getting older. What is it, like 37, 38 now?
Mhm.
The wars are starting to add up a little bit. Remember against Wilder, he got dropped a total of, 5 times in those 2 fights? I think he's not as quick and elusive like the Fury that beat Klitschko. That guy's not there anymore. So I think more than ever, Fury's going to have to be the bigger man and make that ring small and cheat and lean and just really turn this into a war of
agree.
attrition. We're going to break it down more stylistically on Friday, but I'm so fired up. I want to read you the odds as we head into here. According to DraftKings, Usyk -170, Fury +140, and this is the first time Fury's the betting underdog closing since the second Wilder fight in 2020. Real quick, though, I think we all believe that Fury will be better in the second fight, but Luke, how much do you think mentally what went on with his wife being pregnant, although he didn't find out that she miscarried the night before the fight until after the fight, they held that from him. The fact that she didn't show up in her seat on fight night, Fury was aware of that. It had to play some role. Again, I said earlier, maybe he overlooked some levels of how great Usyk can be. I just felt like Fury was surprised in that fight with Usyk's greatness, and I do wonder if some of those other factors contributed with his wife and the concern for the family.
I would be surprised if it didn't play a role. I would be surprised. Yeah.
Maybe that all leads to an even better, even closer fight on Saturday. I can't wait to get into it even more. But Luke, one more thing from boxing over the weekend. We didn't even preview this fight because it was Jaime Munguia on an ESPN Plus card from Tijuana in his home city, getting what amounted to a stay busy fight, a get well fight, right? Coming off of that loss to Canelo Alvarez. He's been gone a long time. Munguia at 28 was a -2,500 betting favorite against France's Bruno Sarachi, who, by the way, had a record coming in of 25-0-2 with 5 KOs and was a +1,200 underdog coming in. Luke Thomas, Munguia he landed 3 times as many punches as his opponent, knocked the dude down in the second round. His opponent's starting to make a little bit of a comeback here and there. But it really was one punch that made this your upset of the year, one of the biggest upsets we've seen mathematically in many years. Look at this right-hand counter that just took Munguia's soul. KO 6 upset, and asked if he wants a rematch. Bruno was like, yeah, I'm really, the middleweight's not even my real weight, maybe. Like, he basically was like, yeah, whatever, I don't know, this isn't even my weight class.
Bro, how often do French fighters beat Mexican fighters?
Almost never.
Almost never. Look at this. Bah. And it's not even in like an interesting moment. It's just Munguia plays reckless.
Dude, Munguia was dominant early.
Yeah, but he plays reckless.
He does. He always does. But he's got a great chin. You wouldn't have expected at 28.
Well, does he? I mean, now he's getting,
yeah, you're right.
He's fucking this whole shit. What does this say about Canelo?
The longevity, the chin, he's great. He's just an all-time
Yeah, but
great.
he couldn't put him away.
I know. That kid's got a great chin.
You carried him?
Oh, you did. I agree with you. He carried him. I don't think you put the stain that the fight shouldn't have happened and it's not a legitimate fight.
I'm not saying that.
Just
I'm
because
just
you carried him,
I'm just asking.
But that fight was kind of some action back and forth early on. It was
ass.
Anyway, we have a replay here of that knockout. Watch the reaction. First of all, look at the chin snap, and then look at Chavez Sr., who was doing commentary ringside.
Gritting.
Oh, God. Oh, my God. Oh, no.
He's like, all of my children let me down.
Yes.
All of them.
Wow. Tough to see. We're going to have to see Munguia bounce back from that. But those are your 5 topics. Before we get into my shiat, we have opened up the floodgates for you guys, the fans, every Sunday night at Morning Kombat on Instagram and Twitter. We ask you to ask us questions, and we'll answer them and probably make fun of your name.
It's on Threads, too.
Yeah, this one's called DMs from Donks. I don't know why we keep that sound in our show.
That's you in your wife's ear.
Okay, that's inappropriate talk. That has gone too far. Thank you very much. Our first one's from Andrew Roret. No, Andrew Roret, Andrew. He says, how do you feel about Colby versus Dustin Poirier now at this point in their careers with both out of title contentions? Dream for a fight night in New Orleans. That would make Poirier happy in the location and the setup, but he's gone on record and saying he doesn't want to help Colby.
Yeah,
make
I
money.
genuinely would not care if we never saw Colby fight again.
I'm with you on that.
I genuinely would not care. His style aged out. He is deeply out of practice.
Yes.
He doesn't have a relevant skill set for the top of the division anymore.
What would happen in that fight? What would happen in that fight? I mean, Colby would be a dog. If Dustin doesn't finish him, are we looking at like a 5-round, largely one-sided striking affair? Or would Dustin get
it's a
pinned
competitive
down?
fight, probably.
Does Dustin get taken down a lot?
He could get. I'm sure he would get taken down at points. Colby's got a little bit of craft as it comes to that, but
are we talking ourselves into this right now?
I don't want to. I don't care. I would rather. Would you rather see that or him versus fucking Hooker or
Long Island Luke? What's the best Poirier retirement fight?
I don't know, but I think he runs through Colby. I don't think that goes the distance or anything.
I mean, I think favoring Dustin makes sense. Colby can be tricky at times, but
The Hooker rematch is fun.
We don't need a Max trilogy.
Nah, Hooker rematch sounds good to me.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. I'd rather have the Chandler.
I'll take that too.
Gaethje trilogy?
Less so. I'm interested in that one because they're both,
washy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's his last fight. I mean,
Hey, let's not forget what he did to Islam. I'm still shocked that he turned the fight for a moment. He turned the fight.
Dustin is I think he's going to be a lifelong martial artist of some kind. I really
Just
believe
knocking
that.
dudes out in bars late in the
I don't know
career.
about that,
late
but
the
training
life.
in the gym, training other people. Yeah.
Let's hear from CMAC 94. If Ilya is to move up to lightweight, do you give him an instant title
No.
shot or do you give him Oliveira first?
Yes.
And with the vacant featherweight, is Volk versus Diego a lock to fight for that, or could you see them going a different path?
If he does move up, I could see that being a lock. Yes. I don't know what else makes the most sense, given that Max is gone.
Evloev's like the other dark horse in that division.
Yeah,
but nobody
like,
wants
they just
to
want that. He just won the fucking prelims. I mean,
it's a good point.
Ain't
Ain't nobody
I know
got
he's
time
got to
for
win over
that.
Diego. I know. I was there. I saw it. But I'm just saying.
Oliveira would be an amazing
Yeah,
entry fight.
I actually do not think that Ilya, if he moves up, should get a title shot right away. You got to beat someone else first, dude. Like if you're gonna just abandon the division after one fucking title defense, no chance you get a title shot after that. No chance.
Well, he's not asking for it, which is nice.
Good.
That is
He
nice.
doesn't deserve it. Now you beat.
Wow. Don't talk that way about your bone. You know what I mean?
He's me amiguito, but I'm telling you, I don't like this shit. You just fucking assumed control of this thing, and now you're gonna abandon it. Okay, you beat Charles, it's a different conversation, but you got to beat Charles.
Thank you. Let's hear from a man and his cat. What am I talking to myself right here? All right. Who are your 3 dark horse fighters to keep an eye on in 2025? So it's not necessarily the ones like Peyton Talbot who are like, we feel like are let's see this prospect break out. It's people that might be middling, but ready to put together a Newmansa type run right now, 6 in a row. I mean, who do you think is kind of poised and is yet to really hit that full ceiling to kind of put it all together?
Jesus, that's a tough question.
It is interesting.
You know what? Let's go to a degenerate gambler.
The only one I could come up with, me and BC were talking pre-show, is he's already top 10, so I don't love him as a dark horse per
Prachus?
se. No, Asu Olmabayev. He's a bantamweight out of Kazakhstan. He's really fucking good.
I said
Like,
who? I
no
didn't
one
know
knows
that.
who he is. Yeah, but I think he's ranked 7th in bantamweight.
I was talking to some guy last night on Twitter who follows the Russian MMA scene, and they were telling me like there's several guys like a Vartanian is one of them, where like these guys are ready to be in the UFC.
Yeah.
But the UFC just won't pay them, but the Russian promoters will pay them. So they're like, well, fuck it. I guess I'll just keep fighting in Russia, and then we're kind of being robbed of some of these other talents that are out there. Joel Alvarez, we talked about him earlier, but he does seem to be ready to move.
He looks like he could get a streak, keep a streak going and stay dangerous and improve with each fight, which is what you need to see. It's not just like who brings the action. We got to have somebody that can put this together and climb the ladder. I'm trying to think. There's got to be some more obvious ones.
Is there anyone in the women's game?
I mean, I wanted to be able to tell you that it was Miranda Maverick, but even though she won again over the weekend, now I get why she doesn't have a ranking. You know what I mean?
By the way, did I tell you I think Shayna Dobson teaches boxing classes at my gym?
No.
So I was lifting weights, and then they have TVs all up on the whatever, and half of them are just First Take and reruns. But then they have some TVs that are like slideshows about stuff that's happening at the gym, hey, classes and whatever. And then it was like meet the coach, and it was like boxing professional, UFC vet. And I looked at the screen and it said, is Coach Shayna. I was like, who would be the UFC vet that matches the description? Shayna Dobson. I was like, listen,
You should invite her to your front yard.
she didn't have the most esteemed UFC career,
Yes.
but that win over Agapova, one of the all-time by odds percentage or by odds wise, one of the all-time biggest upsets in women's MMA. That's a real thing.
I know. I remember that. I remember that breakthrough win. Do you think Natalia Silva fits this category? Or she's too close to contention to.
She's a little close, but I think dark horse in the sense that people have maybe forgotten about her or haven't really learned enough about her. She's definitely, I think, could qualify for that for sure.
Interesting.
For sure. She fights along the Apex shows like people don't know.
Dude, instead of talking about Topuria moving up, can we talk about Islam moving up? Because I want to see Usman Nurmagomedov contend for the lightweight title. In
Yeah,
the
me
UFC.
too.
I would love to see
That'd be awesome.
Imagine if Umar, Usman, and Islam all have UFC titles at the same time. I guess it is possible. We'd have to. I mean, can Islam contend at the next division?
Yes.
Be interesting to see.
Yes.
Be very interesting to add his name to
Don
that group.
Davis getting spicy takes on Twitter.
Don Davis, yeah, getting a little passive aggressive there,
Little Sound and Fury references.
Let's go over to number 4. This is CMAC94, the same guy as the second question. We must need more good questions out there. Despite some of the title fights already being looked in for early
fighting for the belt.
25, who do you guys think should be fighting for the belt in every division first? Okay, flyweight should be Kai Kara. Bantamweight is Umar. Feather is
That's a tough one.
yes.
I think if Ilya is gone, it's Volk Diego Lopez.
I think Diego Lopez is in the fight no matter what, right?
Or yes, I'd be okay. Well, this Volk
Unless
weight.
does UFC ask? Okay, if UFC asked Ilya to fight one more at featherweight, do you think they'd want it for Lopez because they think he's like the best long term hope?
Well, the thing is, they got to keep Volk in rotation. That's the other problem.
It's true as well. We got to. Yeah, we'll have to see what happens. More. We need to see more. Islam will fight your guy, the Armenian Hulk,
Saryukian
for a second time. So it's that
First
one.
team all body.
No doubt about it. Also at welterweight, it's going to be Shavkat.
Yep.
Then at middle, it's we already have a fight with
Sean
Strickland.
Strickland.
So what else does this guy want from us?
205, it's gonna be
Poaton's going to fight
Ankalaev.
Ankalaev. Heavyweight is going to be Aspinall.
Versus Curtis Blades 3.
yeah. There we go. Then we go to women's straw. It's going to be Suarez, and then fly is probably going to be Manon. It should be.
Should be her.
And then the other division, you're going to get
Kayla.
No, yeah, that's next, right? Yeah.
Should be. I mean, they haven't announced it, but that seems like the one to do.
Okay. Oh, Dana's tease of a huge fight. It's not going to be Cyborg coming back, right?
Or Rousey.
Cyborg versus Rousey.
No, I'm just saying, like Rousey at all, you know?
Yeah, I don't think she made all those CTE comments.
Yeah, it's true. Well, so did Vanderlei and Fabricio and lots of guys.
Yeah. All right, one more for you from World's Worst Hero, which could describe Luke Thomas. What are you guys giving each other or getting each other for
Communicable diseases?
Yeah, we didn't do a secret Santa here.
What do they call it? White elephant? Is that what they call the game?
Some people, in my family, I'm going to be honest, we called it and still call it the Chinese grab bag, and that's very insensitive. I don't know. I mean, that's just like, looking back, we should probably they should. They should ixnay on that one.
You know what we grew up with that no one uses anymore? Thank God.
The N-word. Yeah. Oh wait, sorry.
Sorry, that's all over Twitter.
Yeah.
I don't even want to say it, but like they're blank giving. You know what I'm talking about?
No, and I don't want to know. I don't like, I don't like this topic.
Yeah, we
It's
can
really
skip
awful.
it. But no one says it anymore, so it's great.
What would I get Luke? I would get you some hair dye. You won't do one round?
I don't understand why you want me to dye my hair.
You'll look instantly 15 years younger. Like instantly.
I don't care about looking younger.
Not for other people, but for yourself.
I don't look in the mirror and need to prove that to myself. Do you feel that need?
Prove it all night. I tell you that I get a haircut every 2.5 weeks, and if I stretch it even a couple days, I'm depressed looking in the mirror as these long grays are sticking out. Instantly when they shave it, I feel, I'm going to say at least 12 years younger every single time.
Yeah. I would get you, what would I get you? A book.
You don't really read much.
I can tell. Long Island Luke, what would you get us for Christmas?
Some Delta 8s.
Yeah. Yeah.
All reliable over there.
There he is. There he
reliable.
is. We've got one more second. And thank you for DMs from Donks. A reminder that you can hit our email address, morningkombat@gmail.com.
We got a graphic for it now.
You can contact the show. You can show Mikey your piece. No, don't do that. You can also send in your fan submissions, your dead wrongs. We'll read those on Friday. So please, we're trying to make fan subs great again. Let's see what the people have for us.
Let's do it.
Appy, where you at? Jay Paquette, that's what I'm talking about, my people. Let's go to my final segment here in the show where I look through my feces and find the most viral video potential to get Luke to laugh really hard. This one's called Have You Seen This Shit? Hooah, indeed. Tip your bartenders. There you go. Luke, UFC Tampa was on Saturday, and somebody made this great meme of Hulk Hogan before the fight and after, which is great. And I saw you had some fun with that picture on social media as well. Some people were saying, no, he's just writing Newmansa. That's what he's writing.
Oh, is that what it was?
To celebrate the victory. There you go. Luke, did you see that face-off that the Warlock moderated between the Andrew Tate lookalike that they call Bottom G and the guy they call Not Jake Paul? Bottom G, they call him.
Bro, there is no check that Gareth won't cash. What is?
Oh, the Warlock loves this.
This is the most interesting thing that's happened in boxing in 20 years. Dude, and show that again.
They call him Bottom G.
What the fuck is Gareth A. Davis wearing?
Oh, the chain wallet, dude.
The
Come on.
chain? Hold on.
My dad always wore the chain wallet growing up.
What the fuck? What the fuck is that? You could walk a dog with that leash.
Dude, my dad wore the chain wallet every single day with a black leather wallet.
I one time had to sit next to Gareth. We were doing like a Bellator event, and I had to ride the bus from like the hotel to the event. He would not stop. He close talked me for 45 minutes.
He's violated me with his hands. I do want to say it was not
tell
consensual
me about all the
at
chicks
all.
he fucked, and I'm like, please,
Okay,
I need an adult.
no.
You're making me uncomfortable.
Well, he also makes me uncomfortable. I love the man. I swear. I
don't hate him. I like him. I like Gareth.
The
Carl
in
Frost has
person
been fucking murdering him.
Yes, that's true. The in-person times with the Warlock, it can be you can roll the dice. You could get any version of him, but I always cheer for that guy just the same. Let's keep it going here. Drive fast, all gas, Luke.
Okay, all right.
Here's a little bathroom thunder for you.
When there's rain, there's thunder.
That's me every time I go to the non-shitting shitter.
Well, speaking of your history at Joseph A. Bank, we finally have footage of you, Luke, there. This was supposed to have sound, but it didn't come with it, and I don't know if you can get the full translation without the sound.
I did buy suspenders when I was there.
Yeah, well, here's Luke when he asked, do you have a restroom? Okay, it's back there. Let me go. Yeah, here we go. And 3.
Who is this?
2, 1. This is getting uncomfortable. This is some 1987 movie.
This is like Big Trouble in Little China when all the guys like.
And then by the third flush, they're like, "Sir,"
it looks like Long Island Luke.
It kind of does. They're like, "Sir, are you okay in there? You want to drink that Viper?"
You know, they really get to the point of this joke very quickly.
The sound was going to help it along. There we go. There is Luke. There he goes.
Holy Jesus.
Yeah, I wonder what that guy ate. All right, it's time for MMA Fighters in the Wild. You know I love this segment. John Jones has new artwork in his house.
Oh, that is hilarious. Oh, funny games, guys. That's not really going up there, but that would be funny.
He should just lean into it and put it up there, right?
He's not my favorite.
People got mad when Ali and Frazier finally became friends later in life. I want to fight forever feeling with John and DC. Like it's never settled, you know?
That wouldn't bother me one way or the
like
other.
when Rashad made up with John, I thought that was great, and they both were healing, and it was cool.
Yeah.
No, not DC.
Not DC?
No.
Right.
No. I still want them to have a trilogy
Did
fight
you
a
see
heavyweight.
GFL sign Rashad?
I do, and I don't want to talk about it. What about DC coming out of retirement at heavyweight and fighting John in a trilogy? You're not into that, right?
No, he's
All right.
he's washed. I mean, have you seen
I
him?
wish he didn't get that wash and put on the WWE
You made fun of
referee
him saying he
jersey.
looked like a Foot Locker employee.
I didn't say that out loud on the podcast, I don't think. But Greg Hardy, speaking of MMA fighters in the wild, that's tough to watch. Let's go over to Islam Mahajev's gym with Coach Habib, and they have a special guest. Look.
Let's go.
Thank you.
Está mal.
Demetrius, welcome.
Thank you.
So look, if that's the PI in Vegas and Dana just had a conversation,
I'd be sized. I'd be sized to get DJ back.
So is DJ not going to be part of this team? Is this just like a dropping in on the camp?
I don't know. I don't understand. I don't know.
Either way, iron will sharpen iron.
Oh yeah.
with-
I mean, you
with
can
that
only
right
there's
there.
only high quality MMA right there.
Also, Bryce Mitchell was on some weird talk show, and then it got very Bryce Mitchell-like.
And should men be allowed to play in women's sports?
That's an abomination. And, dude, it makes me sick, to be honest. And there's so much of that going on. Even at the Olympics, there was this dude who was a boxer. He beat the crap out of these females, and they totally rigged it. And I honestly think that, you know the dude I'm talking about?
Yes.
I think it's Colin Kaepernick. I really do. I really think I really think that dude, he looks just, or she, or he, whatever, he looks just like Colin Kaepernick.
Well,
I think that
I don't know about
Is this
that.
an
but
SNL skit?
I do know
I
what
really-
This dude on the left
I really
is
think
like
that they put an NFL player in there
insane.
to beat some chicks up in a boxing.
Yeah, I mean, we could skip that one. you didn't have to air like.
I'm like,
that.
where's the punchline? This has to be some like.
No, that dude on the left is like notoriously insane.
Was that dude on the right serious?
I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, wow. Oh my God. Okay. Let's go over to Shudo, Brazil, 127. Mama, there goes that one-armed man. This man's name is Marnie Max, and he is the fella in black. Watch him get this vicious KO, Luke. Now, I don't know the level of competition, but shout out to this fella, right?
Oh, just like clubbing him with that thing.
This is a
sick.
Grabaka Hitman special. I once was at a Dave Matthews concert on the lawn where there was a fight between a one-armed guy and a one-legged guy, and it ended bloody and gross.
Well, that was a fight between two guys who had the jiggliest titties I've ever seen.
Okay, tattoo on titty, yes. Luke, they finally have pictures of the first astronaut to land on Uranus. Sorry, in Uranus. Sorry, in. That does change the joke a little bit.
I have been told that it's, and again, I don't know shit. I have been told it's pronounced Uranus. But
I'm sure they, at some point changed that. Yeah,
like
yeah.
Uranus jokes.
Let's go to this weird old guy basketball league. Watch this guy, number 51. I better retire sooner. This will probably become me, given my track record. Look at this dude right there. See that 51?
Yeah. Oh shit!
Spinning back elbow. Okay.
Yo, where go? Show that again.
Is Habib in this game?
Yo, like this is that Dagestani style of basketball.
Yeah.
They don't give a fuck
That
over
guy's
there.
Abdul Manap,
Fuck
definitely.
dribbling. Bah!
Oh, yeah.
Hold that bitch. And the ground and pound.
I need to retire. I'm going to end up on the wrong end of one of those
Yeah,
soon.
you're gonna get clubbed.
Wow. All right, let's go over to Asia for our dish of the week. Luke, would you eat this?
Asian food is delicious.
It is. They know what they're doing.
That is a hot pan, sir. Why are you wearing a hospital?
Oh, got him, Luke. Got him. Yeah, all right.
Nice.
Hey, did you hear about Tammy crashing her golf cart at the Villages, Luke?
Mm-mm. Oh, you dumbass. Oh, and of course it's going to keep going, right? It's going to go back to the street and the car's going to hit it? Look at this. Look how pink she is from just being sun poisoned. Okay. All right. Okay.
No,
this
I'm
person
fine.
revoked their right
I
to
just
fucking
ran into
vote.
your house. Oh, I was gonna say, what the hell just happened? I ran into your house. With my phone? Yes, your house. Your phone is in here. Okay. You okay? Yes, I'm fine, but also.
Poor
Yeah,
Tammy.
no, you're not fine. You're extremely stupid.
All right, Luke, let's go to this bike race. I didn't realize bike racing was this dangerous when it turns into
Indoor bikes, yeah.
when it turns into roller derby. Watch this.
Oh,
Whoa!
shit.
Catch a souvenir, catch that fade, right?
I got to watch this sport more
yeah,
often. God
this is
damn.
great. Yeah.
Do you think the athletes in this sport also have views from 1975?
Probably. But Luke, can you do this on concrete is the question this next man asks.
That move getting old, man.
Is Vegas
You
somewhere?
can't do it. Or you can't do this on concrete.
Look, neither could he, apparently. Right? Wow.
fuck?
Somebody clean up Unk over there. That's wild.
You mean
All right.
Unk?
Let's go
Stop. You know that's what UNC stands for, right? Unk?
I do. The reason why I said it that way is because I have an Uncle Mike, that I call Unk, and he calls me Neff. All right.
I don't agree that that's a thing.
That's a damn real thing. I can
don't
bring him
agree.
on the show to prove that too. All right. Bad parenting moves of the week. Here's your first one, Luke. There's a baby there on the stairs. I don't know if you can see that.
I do. Oh, Jesus fucking Christ.
Oh, I didn't think you should go that far.
All right. Oh, gee. Okay.
All right.
Call Child Protective Services from this moron.
Well, let's keep them on the hold, Luke, because we've got another one. All right.
Show me you can go forever.
Oh, go forever, eternal. Ah, he want to see it. Hey,
He's
but
gonna
that's
fall
nothing.
on the chick,
When I come
the little
down,
girl.
This is what I do. This is what I do. I make it rain on. Ah, this is a scorpion. Yes, sir.
Why is there
yes,
a dog?
Sir.
Yes.
Oh no!
Oh fuck!
Sweet chin music.
First of all,
wow.
that is. Show it one more time, real quickly.
Show me you can go forever.
Why is there a shirtless man, a dog with no fucking leash?
Dude, I tell my kids all the time they don't believe it. In my hometown, we went to Cumberland Farms one night at like midnight on a Saturday night, me and Bogo, and there was a shirtless guy with a boa constrictor around his neck just walking around the candy aisle. And they're just casually. You know, that's what happens. Wow. Luke, you sent me this Chilean Christmas video of how the Grinch stole Christmas and then stole that ass, right?
Yo, watch this shit. They're trying to fuck with the Grinch.
Oh, yeah. Oh, look at that combo.
How about that?
The Grinch got three pieces.
How about that, Cindy Lou Who?
All right. You know, these Amazon drivers are the real heroes during the holidays, right, Luke?
Tough job.
But even they can get sent to the land of wind and ghosts.
Oh, what the fuck?
I think he was just fencing. Did you see that?
Oh, he was doing the Tunga Vailoa fucking.
Oh, my. No, he was doing something.
I hate to make fun of Tua, but dude, he gets, like, you know how Greg Hardy gets knocked out and it's like an epic knockout? Like, they just, like Johnny Walker.
Yes.
Tua, when he gets knocked out, Nadir, am I wrong? When Tua gets knocked out, it's aggressive.
Jazz
like
hands?
the jazz, the fencing.
Yeah, I'm not into that.
The gang signs and shit. Like, he gets busy. He gets busy with it shit.
Hey, let's chug some beer here. Grandpa would approve of this, right?
You know they're thinking racist thoughts.
Stop. I bet that's the only words that guy speaks these days.
He was trying to choke back racial slurs, and that was the only thing he could spit out.
Let's chug some beer down under. In fact, let's chug 6 of them at once.
Oh, my phone just fucking died. Oh, you wouldn't. Shit. Fucking, here we go.
Dude, all these chug warriors on.
Do you hear that Aussie or UK accent? I can't quite tell which one it is.
All these Twitter drinkers, these IG.
These Pacific Islanders are different, bro.
I was gonna say most of these guys are gonna die soon from these tricks. This guy will live forever. Look at this.
Quick, someone took another one in the top.
That's insane.
Yeah, I mean, he's pre-diabetic, but...
Wow. Did you ever hear of a pants beer, Luke?
Heard of a shower beer.
All right, well, this is a pants beer. All right, you've had enough. That's great. He yelled pants beer from the top of there. I don't know why the audio.
I hope he is executed by the authorities.
All right, we have a couple more. People are starting to get really sick, Luke, of these Instagram video pranks. It can go wrong for you.
You guys want to be my first kiss?
What?
Do you want to be my first kiss?
Hey, I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
If you kiss me,
yeah,
I'm not going to have a problem with it. I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah. Oh.
Watch out.
Wow.
I am desperate for a politician to introduce legislation that if someone pulls a like YouTube or IG or TikTok prank on you, that it's legal to assault them. I applaud that assault.
It is getting out of control, the amount of people that are
watching these idiots get uppercutted by security. Because you have to imagine, you work security at a place like this.
You
have
only
to-
say that because you were a bouncer and an ex-Marine
Dude,
bouncer.
if you have to do what these guys have to deal with the drunk people and then the demeaning language, and then you got somebody wanting to like fuck with you for like Instagram likes, you deserve to be uppercutted. Hadouken, Shoryuken, all that shit.
Luke, what
Tiger, uppercut.
do you do gingerbread houses with toques?
I did one this year, yeah.
Did it look like this?
Okay. Not exactly like that.
I mean, historically accurate, but insensitive to say the least.
I don't know if Christmas is the right occasion for that either.
That's the shit of the week. I hope you watched it or saw a few of it. All right, there you go. Sorry who we offended there. Thank you very much. That's the show. That's all I got. I have to pee really bad.
Well, then end it.
Yeah, but I really like the tension though. As we're like holding on tight.
I have
You know
to
what I mean?
piss too.
All right. Do you have anything to say to the people?
Let's remind them we are going to do a holiday mailbag. We're going to do a holiday mailbag episode. So morningkombat@gmail.com. Let's get some fun holiday mailbag questions in there.
Yeah.
Challenges.
Normally you got your hands on your own mailbag, but you know, if you can take the time
I
to,
know all of you males have bags out there.
Yeah.
We need you to write us morningkombat@gmail.com. Please do that.
Send in your fan subs and dead wrongs to morningkombat@gmail.com as well. Tell Mikey we said hi. Thank you very much. Long Island Luke, you got any final thoughts as we head into the week here?
Looking forward to Fury Usyk this week and nearing 2,000 subscribers on the main card minute. So if you guys want to help out there, I'd appreciate it.
Luke, what do you think about that? This guy Nocita, 2,000 subscribers on the main card minute.
I mean, pissing away time with his girlfriend very, very, lucratively.
I support him and Gaff. They're on a nice roll there. For everyone else that helped us on the show today, thank you very much to you out there watching. Thank you for letting us be a part of your lives. When you kill us, take Luke's organs first.
That's a good idea. You can have him. Organ donor.
We're out of here. Yeah, that's it. That's it.